Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto Harry Potter Naruto Slytherin. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by UzumakiStyle, link in description, and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1, Small Steps. Harry was getting worried now. The longest hand of the clock felt like a ticking time bomb. It would be 11 o'clock in just 10 more minutes, and his dream of escaping to the wonderful world of magic would be over before it even began. At this rate, he'd have to go back to the Dursley's. The thought alone felt like someone poured a bucket of ice-cold water on his head. He imagined what he'd say to his uncle and aunt. "Sorry, but I'm a useless wizard who couldn't even find platform 9 3/4. Mind if I stay with you?" Harry shuddered. "Hey, Four Eyes." He turned around to see a blond boy standing behind him with a trolley and a trunk similar to his own. He looked to be about his age, with blue eyes and wild and untamed blonde hair that could catch your eye from a mile away. But even so, Harry's attention went to his cheeks, where the boy had distinct whisker-like markings, 3 on either side. Harry managed not to stare. After all, he himself felt really uncomfortable in Diagon Alley when everyone stared at his forehead, so it was only logical that the kid wouldn't appreciate a stranger staring at his whiskers. "Are you lost?" the blond boy asked. "Why, yeah. I'm supposed to board a train from platform 9 March 4th. Do you know how to get there?" Harry asked in a polite tone. "Yeah, I'm going there too," the boy said as he pushed his trolley towards a wall between platform 9 and 10. "Did no one tell you how to get there?" Harry shook his head in negative. "Follow me." Harry's eyes widened as the blonde kid simply walked through the wall. "All right, here it goes." Harry muttered and walked through the wall as well. There was darkness for a moment, but he quickly emerged to the other side. A smile appeared on his face as he read platform 9 March 4th in bold letters. There was a red locomotive standing on the tracks and the platform was crowded with students and their families. Harry looked longingly at a couple hugging their daughter in what appeared to be a tearful send-off. "Who gave you the letter?" Harry was startled by the sudden voice. It was the blonde kid from before. Apparently he had waited for him. Harry felt grateful at the gesture. "Hagrid," he replied. "Is he a professor?" The blonde began to push his trolley towards the nearest car. Harry followed suit. "No, he's the keeper of keys and grounds." The blonde nodded in understanding. "Didn't he tell you how to get on this platform?" Harry shook his head. "No, he was in a hurry. He must have forgotten." The blonde shrugged. He lifted his trunk and carried it inside. Harry attempted to lift his own, but it was much too heavy for his scrawny arms. He struggled for a minute until the blonde came back. "I thought you got lost again," he said as he watched Harry struggle with the trunk. The blonde proceeded to lift it with one hand without any effort, and carried it inside. The boy had managed to find an empty compartment. "Thanks for the help." Harry extended his hand. "I'm Harry Potter." The blonde boy took his hand for a brief handshake. "Naruto Uzumaki." They both sat down opposite to each other near the window. "Are you a first year too?" Harry asked when Naruto didn't speak. "Yes," came the short answer. Now that Harry got a closer look, he realized that Naruto had a bored look on his face. His eyes were a deep blue, but there was no life in them. Harry imagined them to shine like sapphires if Naruto were to laugh. Harry had to make a conscious effort not to stare at his whiskers again. "So, who gave you your letter?" Harry was not deterred by the detached attitude. Dudley wasn't here to scare off kids, so maybe he could make friends for the first time in his life. And who better to start than Naruto, who had not only showed him the platform but also helped carry his very heavy trunk. "Professor Flitwick," Naruto replied. "Tiny dude, teaches charms." Harry chuckled at the description. "How tiny?" "Around 3.5 feet. Just then, a loud whistle blew and the train began to move. They both fell in a comfortable silence. "Are you excited about learning magic?" Harry asked, unable to hide his smile at the thought. And for the first time that day, he saw a ghost of a smile on Naruto's face. "Yeah, it sounds wonderful. Did Hagrid show you any magic to convince you it was real?" Apparently it was normal for people to doubt strangers when they tell you magic is real. Harry was glad he wasn't alone in that regard. In response to the question, Harry almost blurted yes but stopped himself at the very last moment. "No. What about you? How did Professor Flitwick convince you? He wasn't going to break his promise to Hagrid." "He made my sandals tap dance on their own." Naruto smiled at the memory. "Not gonna lie, I was gonna stab the sandals at first when they began to move." Harry laughed out loudly. But then he conjured a flock of birds with a wave of his wand, and I was convinced. That sounds pretty awesome. The friendly chat between the two was interrupted when the compartment door slid open and a kid about their age walked in. He had pale blonde hair that were slicked back, probably with a lot of hair gel, and was already wearing the plain black robes first years were required. He was flanked by two dumb-looking fat kids that were much larger than him. Father told me Harry Potter will be attending Hogwarts this year. Are you him? The kid asked in a demanding tone. Harry recognized him from the Madame Malkin's store. Who wants to know? Harry asked instead, answering. The kid looked at his forehead, and Harry fought the urge to cover it with his hand. So it is true. The kid smiled, apparently satisfied that he'd finally found Harry. I'm Draco Malfoy, by the way. This is Crabbe and this is Goyle. He pointed at the two trolls behind him. I'm Harry Potter. Why are you sitting alone? Come sit with us, I'll introduce you to right type of people. I'm not sitting alone. Harry gestured towards Naruto with his head, who was looking out the window and ignoring everything that was going on around him. Oh, who are you? Draco turned his attention to Naruto. Naruto finally tore his gaze away from the window and introduced himself. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Never heard the name before. Are you a half-blood? Draco asked. What's a half-blood? An ugly sneer appeared on Draco's face. The fact that you don't know can only mean one thing: you must be a mudblood. He spat mudblood like it was something vile. It was probably a bad word, Harry thought. Now, over the years of going to the same school with Dudley, Harry had developed a very important skill to detect when a fight's brewing. This seemed like one of those situations. If it came to it, the odds were not in their favor in a 3-against-2. Odd, he didn't even realize he was ready to fight for someone he just met. But to his surprise, nothing of the sort happened. Naruto simply ignored Malfoy and resumed his very important task of looking out the window. Draco turned his attention back to Harry. Are you coming, Potter? No, I'm going to take a nap. Walking to another compartment with a very heavy trunk sounds like opposite of a nap. Harry leaned back in his seat and promptly closed his eyes. For a moment, Draco couldn't form proper words. Alright then, I'll see you at school. Harry opened his eyes when he heard the compartment door close. Naruto was still looking out the window. Without turning his gaze, he said, he seemed to know who you are. Harry fidgeted a little. Apparently I'm pretty famous. Are you a criminal or something? No, nothing like that, Harry protested. When I was 1, a dark wizard by the name of Voldemort killed my parents. He attempted to kill me too, but somehow I survived and Voldemort died instead. I survived the killing curse when no one else could. That's why I'm famous. At least that's what Hagrid told me. Harry slumped back in his chair. He might not remember his parents, but still it felt awful to talk about their deaths. So you are an orphan too? Naruto asked. Harry looked at him in surprise. You don't have a family either? A moment too late, Harry realized what he had asked. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Naruto gave a reassuring smile. It's alright, I was the one who asked you first. But yeah, I don't have a family. Awkward silence hung in the compartment for a couple of moments. I have an aunt, Harry said suddenly. Uncle Vernon and my cousin Dudley don't like me very much. I have a sensei back home. He's the closest thing I have to a family. Or a friend, for that matter. Where are you from? Naruto looked uncomfortable at the question, but thankfully he was saved from answering when the compartment door opened once again. It was some bushy-haired girl this time. Have you seen a toad? A boy named Neville has lost one. She asked. No, sorry, Harry replied. I saw a toad hopping towards the toilet, Naruto told her. The girl smiled, thank you, and the compartment door was closed once again. What do you think of our subjects? Naruto asked, hoping that Harry forgot about his previous question. They all sound awesome, but I'm looking forward to Charms and Transfiguration the most. Harry was giddy. What about you? Everything aside from astronomy sounds amazing. You don't like astronomy? I tried reading the book, but I quickly found out that I don't care about the constellations. And frankly, I'm just not interested in Uranus. Harry laughed out loud at the last sentence. That one never gets old. Harry wiped a tear from his eyes. Even Naruto smiled. Have you practiced any spells? Naruto asked when Harry's laughter died down. Harry shook his head. My aunt hates magic and everything that's related to magic. When I got my supplies last month, she called me a freak and locked away my books. Again, A couple of minutes passed in silence. I read the books, but I didn't get to practice any spells. Tiny Professor said, if I practice magic outside of Hogwarts, they'll expel me. How would they know if you performed magic? Apparently they have something called a trace which detects when underage wizards use magic. Naruto explained. Harry nodded in understanding. That makes sense. Would they expel you if you performed the magic now? Naruto thought about it for a little while. I don't know, but I don't want to risk it. Be a shame if they send us back in the same train. Harry frowned. Yeah. Did you buy your wand from that creepy old guy? Creepy old guy. Harry loved Naruto's habit of giving nicknames to people. You mean Ollivander's? Yes, he made me hold almost every wand in his store. Hours later, the pile of wands was almost as tall as me. In the end, he gave me this. Naruto pulled out his wand. Apparently his grandfather made it, so it's like 1,000 years old. Harry was unable to control his laughter. Yeah, 1,000 years sound about right. What is it anyway? He asked as he eyed the handsome brown wand with beautiful grain pattern. Its handle was thicker than the rest of it with some white bandage wrapped around it for easier grip. Acacia, core of dragon heartstring, 11 inches and unyielding. Naruto mimicked Ollivander's voice perfectly. Harry was impressed by the mimicry and slightly amused. Apparently acacia wands are tricky to place, but once they find their master, they can be really powerful. Naruto added. Wand chooses the wizard, Harry repeated the wand maker's words. He then took out his own. This is mine, Holly, phoenix feather core and 11 inches same as yours. Harry didn't mention the creepy fact that his wand was twin of Voldemort's wand. For the third time that day, the compartment door slid open. An elderly lady poked her head inside. Do you want some sweets, children? She asked. Naruto and Harry looked at each other. What do you have? I have cauldron cakes, chocolate frogs, acid pops, fizzing whizbees, birdie bots, every flavor beans, and a dozen different things. The old lady provided happily. Naruto and Harry both walked towards the trolley. Naruto was satisfied with 2 cauldron cakes and a couple of fizzing whizbees. Harry, on the other hand, took 2 of everything. He even made a second trip when his hands got full. They both paid the lady and thanked her. So you like sweets? Naruto asked once they both settled down. Not particularly. Harry picked the acid pops to try first. I just never had a lot of money growing up. Only last month I found out that I have a vault of my own at Gringotts. Naruto whistled. Making up for the lost time then? Something like that. I thought you were some sort of street rat at first, to tell you the truth. Naruto admitted. What? Why would you think that? Harry felt a little insulted. Naruto just shrugged, either not noticing or not caring. For one thing, you're way too scrawny with clothes that are obviously not yours. And when you said your parents were killed, I thought either you grew up in some rundown orphanage or on the streets. Well, when you put it like that, Harry didn't say anything else, and Naruto happily dropped the awkward subject. Harry instead unwrapped the sweets and ate one. His eyes closed automatically and his face contorted like he'd eaten the sourest of lemons. How does it taste? Naruto asked. Harry did not have to open his eyes to know that Naruto was smiling. So the thweet and thulthus after a while. Harry's tongue was heavy. Naruto interpreted it as, sort of sweet and sour taste after a while. Imagine the fizziest cola you've ever had, it's 100 times worse than that. Harry described the acid pops when he felt his tongue become normal again. You have to try this. He offered Naruto his remaining acid pop. Naruto took and ate it without hesitation. You a bite, he said, and Harry laughed at his broken speech. The rest of the journey to Hogsmeade Station passed with them swapping question and trying out the weird and fascinating sweets of Wizarding World. It was night when their destination finally arrived. Naruto stood with the rest of the first years, waiting for the teacher to return. They were going to be sorted in 4 different houses apparently. He did not know that before. Neither did he care much about it. In his mind it didn't make much difference where he slept. Others cared greatly, by the looks of things. He paid close attention to their whispered conversations while looking at nothing at particular, and appearing absolutely bored out of his mind. His sensei's habits were bound to rub off on him. The children thought Gryffindor and Ravenclaw were best choices, while majority wanting to avoid Hufflepuff if they could. Slytherin had some takers, even though most of them wanting to avoid it. The ginger kid went so far as to call it House of Evil Wizards. Naruto didn't have any opinion on the subject. Anything was fine as long as he got to learn magic. When he arrived in this world, he was prepared to leave his short career behind and live as a civilian where no one knew him. A fresh start where no one knew of his burden. But his Uzumaki luck reared its head once again, and he found out there was a magical world hidden in plain sight. Not only that, he himself had the rare ability to wield magic. At first he thought that the tiny professor was pulling his leg when he talked of magic. He was glad he stuck around to see the demonstration. Education was free at Hogwarts, but he still needed money for the supplies. Tiny Professor told him there was a fund that provides for orphans and such. Naruto politely declined the offer. He didn't want to be in anyone's debt, some gambling here and some illegal fights there. He made the money in no time. Normally, he wouldn't resort to such things, especially when he had to rely on transformation jutsu for the illegal fight, but he told himself that it was an exception. He'd get a real job next summer. The professor came back and led the first years to the Great Hall. She called the students one by one to try on the old hat. The sorting hat would tell the students where they belong. So far, Hannah Abbott, Susan Bones, Ernie Macmillan, Justin Finch Fletchley and Sally Ann Perks were sorted in Hufflepuff. Terry Boot, Mandy Brocklehurst, Michael Corner, Anthony Goldstein, Sue Lee and Padma Patil went to Ravenclaw. Neville Longbottom, Seamus Finnegan, Hermione Granger, Parvati Patil, Lavender Brown and Lily Moon were welcomed by Gryffindor, whereas Draco Malfoy, Vincent Crabbe, Gregory Goyle, Theodore Knott, Pansy Parkinson, Millicent Bulstrode and Daphne Greengrass were put in Slytherin. Potter, Harry, the professor called out, and the chatter of Great Hall instantly died down. Everyone was looking at Harry, who was doing all he could to avoid everyone's wondering gazes. He gently sat down on the stool, like he feared it would break at any time. The professor put the hat on Harry's head, and the Great Hall held its breath. Even the teachers couldn't hide their curiosity. The hat took a long while, longer than it took for anyone so far. Until finally, Gryffindor! The hat yelled and the Gryffindor table erupted in cheers. Harry ran towards his new housemates. After that, 2 other first years were put in Gryffindor, Sophie Roper and Dean Thomas, while Sally Smith and Lisa Turpin were sorted in Slytherin and Ravenclaw respectively. And finally, after what felt like an eternity later, the professor called out his name. Naruto walked towards the stool and the hat was placed on his head. Whoever made it probably didn't meet many 11-year-olds because it was way too big for him. The hat blocked his view of the Great Hall and rested on his nose. Interesting, very interesting. Naruto felt proud that he didn't rip the hat off his head and chuck the bloody thing to the other end of the Great Hall when the voice startled him. Hello? Naruto replied in his mind. We don't have to make small talk. Alright then, carry on. Difficult, very difficult. Most of your mind is blocked by something I've never seen before. Thank my sensei. Genjutsu walls so the enemy couldn't get information out of him. I do like a challenge. I can tell you are not afraid to confront any challenge, and you are not afraid of new experiences either. You'd make a great Gryffindor. Thank why. Settle down, I'm not done with you. The hat continued, not a bad mind, but knowledge is obviously not your first priority. You work hard and push yourself to the limit, I see. You know what they say, don't stop till you drop. Behind that hard work is thirst to prove yourself, a deep-rooted ambition to be the best of them all. The hat kept talking about his bravery, hard work and ambitious nature for a long while. It kept arguing to itself among Gryffindor, Hufflepuff and Slytherin, not settling on anyone. It was amusing at first, but now it was just getting ridiculous. He was hungry, for fuck's sake. I don't want to be late to my lectures, you know. They must be starting any minute now. The hat disregarded his very valid concern, and then the saga finally came to its conclusion after 8 long minutes. Better be, Slytherin. The hat yelled out far too loudly than necessary, in his opinion. Naruto removed the hat and handed it back to the professor. Thank you. Would you mind telling me what year is it, Professor? Naruto asked in an innocent and completely serious tone. Those within hearing range chuckled, but McGonagall stubbornly fought down her own smile. Go and take your seat, Mr. Uzumaki. Naruto bowed a little and turned on his heel. There was an empty seat near the hair gel kid, but he chose one near the far end of the table. He didn't have anything against the kids, but he preferred if no one glared at him at dinner table. They thought they were being discreet, but Naruto clearly saw the look in their eyes. He barely heard when Ronald Weasley and Blaise Zabini were sorted. Naruto sighed, so much for a fresh start. He muttered under his breath. The feast began soon and Naruto filled his plate with a dozen different kinds of foods. If anyone looked at him, they would think that he was completely focused on eating. Even so, his ears were open and very much alert. The other Slytherins were clearly talking about him. He heard when they ridiculed his whiskers and called him a freak. He also heard when they called him a mudblood, and he definitely heard when they discussed something called hatstall while pretending like he was deaf. After the tables were cleared, Dumbledore listed a few warnings and instructions for students. Then he made everyone sing a song. He conjured a ribbon which spelt the lyrics of the song while using his wand as a conductor baton. Everyone sang at their own pace and to their own tune. The twins from Gryffindor were last to finish the wacky song, and Dumbledore even had tears in his eyes by the end. Naruto kept his mouth shut during the whole ordeal. He even thanked God when it was over. After that, a prefect who introduced herself as Gemma Farley led the first years to the dungeons. They walked deep inside the castle, down the stony steps. Naruto followed a step behind everyone else, taking in portraits and armors that stood guard while watching his fellow first years through the corner of his eye. He took in their style of speaking, their way of walking, and other small habits. It was out of habit than anything else. When they came face to face with a huge bare wall, Gemma Farley spoke in a loud and clear voice. "I'm going to say the password, do not forget it. You'll need it if you don't want to sleep in the corridor." She faced the wall once again, Asphodel, she said, and the wall opened a passage for them. Gemma led them inside. "The password changes every fortnight, and you'll be alerted accordingly." Naruto took in the sight of the common room. It was decorated in green lighting with a huge portrait of a serpent on the mantel. How creative, he thought. There were plenty of dark green sofas scattered about, and there were many coffee tables and chairs as well. A fire was lit in the hearth, providing warmth to the otherwise cold room. The dungeon-like room partly extended under the lake, and walls were covered with tapestries depicting great deeds of previous members of House Slytherin. Overall, it looked quite grand. Naruto was impressed. In the same breath, he wondered about the common rooms of other houses. "Boys' dormitory is up those stairs." Naruto's eyes followed Gemma's finger. "Girls' dormitory is this way. Your luggage has already been brought and put in your respective rooms. Your timetable for the rest of the year will be handed to you tomorrow. The curfew is at 10 o'clock every day. No one will leave the common room after that. If you have any questions, contact a prefect. Good night." With that, Miss Farley led the girls to their dormitories. Many of the boys decided it was too early to sleep, and they hung back in the common room. It was obvious that they knew each other already. He was the only stranger among them. So he decided to find his bed for the time being. Up the stairs, there were 7 different hallways. Naruto followed the sign that said first year. His room was the last one at the end of hallway. Naruto was pleased that he got a separate room for himself. The door held a green nameplate with his name written in silver. The room was quite spacious, with a large bed, a study table, a cupboard and a sofa. A door to the left led to the bathroom. It was decorated in the same style as the common room, green and silver with plenty of snake-themed decorations. His trunk was at the foot of the bed. He unpacked his clothes and books, and plopped down on the soft, comfortable bed. It was tempting to just close his eyes and fall asleep, but he was too excited to sleep just now. Besides, he didn't want the nightmares to ruin his perfect first night. So, he took out his copy of Magical Theory by Adalbert Waffling and sat at his table with a parchment and quill. He had already read the book, but it always took him more than one reading to understand theory. He much preferred practical side of learning. He began reading the first chapter, which told him that magic had no clear definition, unlike chakra. It was difficult for most wizards and witches to channel their magic consciously without a medium. Children sometimes channeled their magic unconsciously, which was dubbed accidental magic. Waffling assured him that magic was much easier to access if you had a medium to channel it, i.e. a wand. It was also mentioned that if he became good enough, he would one day be able to use magic without a wand. But it was very rare and very, very difficult skill. And harder spells didn't work as good without a wand. Naruto held his wand and a faint warmth spread through his body, just like back in the creepy guy's shop, but 100 times fainter. The wand was drawing his magic on its own. He gave it a simple wave and rainbow-colored sparks shot out the tip. He put down the wand and tried to make sparks with his fingers. Unsurprisingly, nothing happened. Naruto spent the next few hours reading and rereading the book, taking notes every now and then. When he was done, it was well past midnight. He stretched his arms over his head and let out a loud yawn. He decided to sacrifice his sleep to explore the castle. Hallway was empty, and no noise came from his neighbors either. The common room was mostly empty, with only a few older students studying near the fire. No one noticed when he slipped out of the common room. Harry made his way down to the Great Hall with his new friend Seamus and Dean. They tried to wake up Ron, but it was lost cause. The redhead was a heavy sleeper. Harry didn't blame Ron for oversleeping. The beds were very comfortable. Last night was the best sleep Harry had in his whole life, and not having to cook breakfast was to be celebrated as well. It felt amazing. So far Hogwarts had not disappointed him. The 3 of them took their seats and piled their plates with sausages and eggs. They ate while speculating what their classes would be like. Dean was eager for Transfiguration while Seamus was waiting for Charms, mostly because he wanted to learn how to turn water into rum. Harry was just happy to be free of the Durslys, and he made friends for the first time in his life. Dean, Seamus and Ron were good kids, even if Ron kept talking about his scar and how wicked it was. Harry didn't believe in luck, mostly because his was crappy to begin with, but he felt it was lucky that he met Naruto at platform. The blonde was really helpful, even going so far as to carrying his trunk for him. Naruto was his first friend. It was a shame he was in Slytherin. He had hoped that they both be in the same house. He looked towards the Slytherin table where Naruto was eating alone. Other first years were chatting and laughing while the blonde completely focused on his breakfast. Unlike him, it didn't seem like Naruto made any friends from his house. Harry felt a little bad for him. Harry? Harry? Dean brought his attention back. Where were you lost, mate? Look, Seamus is trying to turn his water into rum. Harry looked toward Seamus, who was chanting, "Eye of rabbit, harp string hum, turn this water into rum," over and over again. After like 10th try, the water turned a light red color. Seamus, in his excitement, put a little too much into the next. But instead of turning into rum, the water exploded with a loud bang. The Gryffindor table laughed at Seamus's expense. After the breakfast was over, Professor McGonagall handed them their schedules. They had 3 classes today: Potions in the morning with Slytherins, History of Magic with Hufflepuffs, and Transfiguration with Slytherins in afternoon. Naruto watched as the greasy guy tore Harry a new one as soon as the class began. His tirade was supposed to humiliate Harry, but in Naruto's mind, it only proved that the greasy guy was mean, nothing else. Naruto felt bad for Harry. When he first met him, he saw loneliness in his green eyes. So similar to his own. That's why he talked to him more freely than he would have otherwise. No kid should have that look in their eyes. Naruto had guessed that Harry was an orphan too, given the state of his clothes and scrawny appearance. Which was half true. Harry's parents were dead, but he had an aunt. And judging by how Harry's mood dropped when talking about his relatives, it wasn't exactly happy life for him. Harry wasn't keen on sharing the details, nor did Naruto ask. Some things were better left alone. Even so, Naruto was glad he met Harry. Maybe he'd make a friend for the first time in his life. Hogwarts was magical after all. When Greasy Guy was done with insulting Harry, the class was finally assigned a task to do. The professor flicked his wand and instructions for cure for Boyle's potion appeared on the blackboard. Naruto was paired with a blonde girl, with blue eyes a shade lighter than his own. Grass or something, her name was. Naruto put a liter of mineral water in the cauldron, and the girl started the fire. Crush the snake fangs, I'll slice the pungus onions, she told him, and both of them got to work. Naruto put 6 fangs in the mortar and began to crush them into fine powder. The girl was slicing the pungus onions in equal pieces with a silver knife. When the water came to boil, Naruto carefully dropped the powder in the cauldron, and exactly 1 minute after that the onions were added with dried nettles. 5 minutes later, Naruto added the disgusting, slimy green flobberworm mucus from a glass vial and began to stir vigorously. Snape was walking around the classroom, peering in the cauldrons, giving advice to Slytherins and insulting Gryffindors. Seemed like the professor had a special place in his heart for Gryffindor, Harry and the fat kid in particular. After 45 minutes of stirring, the girl added powdered ginger root. Shrake pines were added shortly after that, and Naruto switched to gently stirring the mixture. They both worked in silence, following the instructions as accurately as possible. After 10 minutes of gently stirring, the girl added a glug of pickled horned slugs and killed the heat before adding a couple of porcupine quills. Naruto stirred the potion for another 10 minutes, and finally the girl waved her wand in a circular motion over the cauldron. The potion was blue in color with pink smoke rising from the cauldron, exactly as described in the book. Just then they heard a shriek of pain from 2 tables over. It was the fat kid Snape was tormenting earlier. His cauldron was melting on the stove. Pungent smell filled the classroom as the horrible-looking potion spilled on the poor kid. There were ugly boils all over him, and kid was crying in pain. Snape was berating him for not removing the cauldron from heat before adding the porcupine quills. The boy was hurried to the medical wing. "What's your name?" the girl asked him. Naruto saw that she had already filled 2 vials and she had a quill in her hand. "Naruto Uzumaki," he answered. She wrote down his name and put the label on a file. Naruto read the label of the other file. "Daphne Greengrass," it said. "You are good at potions," Daphne told him. "Thank you." "Are you a Muggle-born? I mean, are your parents magical?" "No idea. Never knew my parents," he replied as he took his file and picked up his backpack. He walked away from the conversation to submit his potion at the desk and left the dungeons. "Rude," Daphne said when he was out of earshot. It was lunchtime, and once again Naruto was sitting alone at the Slytherin table. History of Magic had been beyond boring. In fact, it was the only thing that he found boring at the castle. Naruto wasn't a big fan of random stuff that happened centuries ago to begin with. On top of that, the ghost professor had voice that would put anyone to sleep. So it was no surprise that Naruto's eyes began to droop. It probably didn't help that he didn't sleep last night. He had slept through the whole lecture, just like everybody else. After lunch, he had a free period before Transfiguration with Gryffindors. Speaking of, he looked at the table at the opposite end of the hall where Four Eyes was chatting animatedly with his fellow first years. Naruto smiled. Maybe now that lonely look will go away from his eyes. Naruto was aware that his housemates were making jokes at his expense. That hair gel kid was describing his whiskers and spiky hair, and the rest of them were laughing like it was the funniest thing they had heard in their lives. Only 2 first years didn't join the comedy session. One was that Daphne girl from Potions and another girl whose name he didn't know. Naruto realized he was bad with names. He thought about putting in more effort, but then again, why bother? After lunch, he went to library to get started on his potions homework. It wasn't due till next week, but right then he had nothing better to do. And this way, he'd be free to roam the castle after Transfiguration. In the library, he found out that he wasn't the first student to make it there. He saw the bushy-haired girl from the train writing furiously, half hidden behind a pile of books. Naruto scanned the potions section until he found Book of Potions by Zygmunt Budge. He found a nice table by the window and got to work. The book was very helpful, with detailed information about all the ingredients of cure for boils. It took him less than an hour to finish his essay. After that he was off to next class. Here, he was first to arrive. There was a cat sitting on the professor's table, but an animal didn't count. Naruto chose the second last seat by the window. He had a great view of the lake and Quidditch Stadium. From what he overheard, Quidditch was the most popular game, but for the life of him, he could not make sense of anything he heard so far. All the things he heard about the sport sounded like gibberish to him, including the name of the game. Maybe he was just biased because he never played a team sport in his life before. He had tried once when he was 5, but the women took their kids and ran from the playground like he had the plague. He avoided playgrounds after that. Closest thing would be when he played with his shadow clones when he first learnt the jutsu, which was just sad now that he thought about it. Everyone else had arrived when he was lost in his thoughts. When it was time to begin the lecture, the cat jumped off the table and turned into Professor McGonagall. The class erupted in applause. Even Naruto couldn't hide his surprise. He didn't know the professor could do that. But then again, he should have expected something like this. It was called magic for a reason. Welcome to your first lecture of Transfiguration, the professor began. Transfiguration is some of the most complex and dangerous magic you'll learn at Hogwarts. That being said, I should warn you that anyone messing around in my class will leave and not come back, she said in a firm tone. A few students gulped. Ignoring the horrified look on Mr. Finnegan's face, let's continue with the introduction of the subject, shall we? Most of the students laughed. Now, Transfiguration, in simplest terms, is an art of changing the form and appearance of an object or a person. It sounds simple, I'm aware, but believe me when I say it's one of the more scientific forms of magic with its own sub-branches and specially defined rules. The quills began moving as McGonagall began to describe 4 branches of transfiguration: human transformation, trans-species transfiguration, conjuration and vanishment, and untransfiguration. Human transfiguration was exactly what the name suggested, transformation a person into something else. Trans-species transfiguration dealt with turning a living thing into something else, like turning a rabbit into a peacock. Conjuration and vanishment were more complex, with former dealing with making things appear out of nowhere, while the latter being the opposite. Untransfiguration was used to undo a transformation spell. Now we shall learn about all 4 branches in due time. But for our first lecture, let's begin with basics. She waved her wand at the board. An alphabet appeared on it with another alphabet just beneath it. Naruto recognized it as Transfiguration alphabet from the book. Please note down the Transfiguration alphabet and try to memorize it. It will be very useful in learning the subject. With that, she turned back into a cat and sat on the table. After about 5 minutes, the door to the classroom was thrown open and Harry and Ron ran inside. We made it, thank God the professor isn't here yet, Ron was saying. The cat jumped and once again turned back into Professor. That was wicked. Thank you, Mr. Weasley, but you're both late. Maybe I should turn one of you into a pocket watch? At least that way, the other would be one time? She scolded. Harry and Ron had the sense to look embarrassed. We got lost, Harry said weakly. Then perhaps a map? I trust you don't need one to find your seats? They both practically ran to a couple of empty seats. The situation was funny, but no one dared to laugh in the classroom. Rest of the time passed uneventfully. Naruto was walking by lake. First day was more fun than he could have ever imagined, history of magic being the only exception. He thought magic would be amazing to learn, but it was so much more than that. He was never the studious type, but even he couldn't resist reading the books. Again, history was the only exception. If the first day was any indication of things to come, the next 7 years were going to be awesome. Naruto arrived at the wharf where small boats were tied, the same ones the first years used last night. He rolled up his jeans and sat down on the wooden platform with his feet submerged in ice-cold water. He wiggled his toes and sighed at the pleasant feeling. On the grounds, students were out on strolls, some were sitting on cool grass with their friends, and some upper-classmen were flying on broomsticks, which weren't very fast, but it still looked pretty cool. First years weren't allowed broomstick, not that Naruto wanted one, of course. It looked cool from afar, but he imagined it would be uncomfortable to sit on a wooden broom like that. He liked his family jewels uncrushed and intact, thank you very much. He would have liked to hang out with other kids, but he refused to approach anyone for friendship on his own. He had stopped trying to befriend people long ago. It hurt too much when they acted friendly one moment, and then ran away from him when they knew of his burden. Naruto shook his head of depressing thoughts. Get a grip, dude. It's only been 1 day. So what if he couldn't make any friends with people? He had way better friends than some snot-nosed brats. Naruto bit his thumb and swiped the blood on his palm. Boar, dog, bird, monkey, ram, summoning jutsu. In a puff of smoke, a large toad appeared in front of him. It was easily 6 feet tall with crimson-colored skin with blue markings on it. Toad had bandages wrapped around his stomach and legs and was clad in samurai armor. It also had a necklace of 7 glass beads with the kanji for loyalty on center, largest one. Hey, Mr. Gamma. Naruto greeted his friend. I know how much you like fresh cold water lakes, so I summoned you. Mr. Gamma croaked in delight and jumped in the water. Naruto watched his companion swim merrily until the sun set and he got hungry. Alright, I'm heading inside, you can go home too. Naruto got up and the toad dispelled itself. It was always fun to hang out with his toads. Unbeknownst to him, a pair of dark eyes were watching him the entire time through telescope from Astronomy Tower. Professor Sinistra frowned at the accidental discovery. I should probably talk to Sylvanus, he would know more about toads. She wondered out loud, which wasn't an unusual reaction when you see a toad as big as that for the first time in your life. The next day. Naruto was bright and early for charms that day. Well, early but not very bright because for the second night in a row he went without sleep, only taking short naps when he was tired. There was just so much magic to learn. He had spent most of last night preparing for the lessons today. He practiced the softening charm until he got it right, and he also read about how to treat werewolf bites for the defense against dark arts lecture. In the morning he even had time to read about the devil's snare and 1,000 magical herbs and fungi. But right now, he had nothing better to do than stare at the tapestry depicting the 4 animals of Hogwarts' crest. They would break away, roam the trees woven of silk and come back together to complete the crest of the school. One by one, his classmates trickled in. They didn't share charms with any other house, so it was Slytherin only. Well, looks like Whiskers is first to arrive again. Mocking him was the first thing Malfoy did when he walked into the charms classroom. His lackeys dutifully laughed. Naruto looked at Malfoy for a second and turned his attention back to the tapestry once again. Every other turn, the lion is jumping in that river before coming back. He noticed. After seeing his reaction, or lack thereof, Malfoy was infuriated. He turned things up a notch. I reckon he's a filthy half-beast of some kind. That's why he's got those whiskers like an animal. The snake, on the other hand, prefers the lake. Badger mostly sticks around the gate. Malfoy was about to say something else equally enlightening but was interrupted when the tiny professor walked in the classroom. Welcome. The professor greeted in his squeaky voice, drawing the attention of everyone. Please sit down and let us get started with your first charms lesson. Looked like the professor was more excited than the students. His lovely classmates kept trying to get his attention by glaring a hole through his skull, but Naruto completely ignored them in favor taking notes about the theory of the first spell in their charms syllabus, the softening charm. When the theory was done with, Tiny Professor made them pack away their parchment and quills, and with a lazy flick of his wand, he arranged the tables in a neat pile at the far end of the classroom. They all stood with plenty of distance between each other so as to practice the charms without interfering in others' work. The incantations is fairly simple, the professor told them. Spongify. Repeat after me, Spongify. The children obeyed and practiced the incantation until Professor Flitwick was satisfied. Very good. Now I'll show you wand movement. If your wand movement is even slightly wrong, the charm won't work, so pay close attention. Flitwick cleared his throat and drew a tilted S with the bottom slightly shorter than the top. Now get to practicing. If you cast the charm successfully, the floor should become spongy and bouncy. Naruto pointed his wand at the floor in front of him. Spongify, he said, and at the same time drew a tilted S in the air with his wand. The texture of the floor changed. It looked much softer now. He stepped on the spot to make sure, and the floor acted like a trampoline. He was satisfied with the result. Very good, Mr. Uzumaki. Very good. 5 points for Slytherin, the professor squeaked. Thank you, sir. Naruto bowed a little and went back to his previous task, watching the animals on the tapestry. Again ignoring the looks of everyone else, even if this time the sneers were mixed with jealousy and a tiny bit of admiration. A couple of minutes later, a loud bang shook the room. Naruto looked towards the source of the noise. It was Grab, or was it Coil? Whatever his name was, had managed to blast a small hole into the floor. How the hell did he get the spell so wrong? The damage was undone by Flitwick with just a simple wave of his wand. After the class, Daphne fell in beside him as he was walking towards the Great Hall for lunch. I'm sorry about my friends, their parents didn't teach them any manners, she said. Don't worry about it, he replied without even looking at her. Why don't you defend yourself? Trust me, you do not want me to defend myself, Naruto wanted to say but held his tongue. Instead he just shrugged. Your friends mean nothing to me. So what they say or think about me doesn't matter in the slightest. Before she could reply or say something else, Naruto vanished in a body flicker. Daphne's jaw dropped when she saw him vanish on the spot. Not that she knew it was body flicker, of course, she just saw him shimmer for a moment, and then he wasn't there. She passed her hand through where he was standing but didn't feel anything there. Rude, she said for the second time in as many days. Harry, what do you think, mate? Ron asked. No, I don't think I'll go for tryouts. What? Why not? Ron acted like it was the most absurd thing in the world, refusing to attend Quidditch tryouts. Well, for one thing, I don't know a thing about Quidditch. Only that it's played on brooms. Dean chimed in. Yeah, I forgot you grew up with muggles. Sorry, mate. Harry waved the apology. Even if I was brought up by Godric himself, first years aren't allowed brooms, remember? What am I gonna fly on? Ron hung head. Yeah, you're right. Forget I said anything. Harry felt a bit bad for Ron, but cheering him up would have to come later. Right now, they were outside classroom 31 for their first lecture of defense against the dark arts. Harry walked in behind Dean and Ron. One look at the classroom told him they were the last to arrive. He spotted an empty seat next to Naruto, second to last and near the wall. Naruto was currently sleeping at his desk, using his hands as pillow. Harry smiled at his sleeping friend and quickly sat down next to blonde Slytherin. Hello, Four Eyes, Naruto greeted him without opening his eyes. Harry hid his surprise. Well, didn't get enough sleep? Naruto sat up and rubbed his eyes. Something like that, he said. Yeah, I was up practicing spells till 1 in the morning too. Learned your lesson, did you? Naruto was referring to the fiasco of potions class. Harry blushed. I swear Snape has out for me, he whispered conspiratorially. Naruto nodded in understanding. Wouldn't surprise me if he did. He was looking at you like you kicked his puppy or something. Pfft, as if I were that special. He treats most Gryffindors that way. They were interrupted by their defense against dark arts professor walking in the classroom. Harry was very much looking forward to this class. The book was really fascinating to read and he was very much excited to learn more about the plethora of dark creatures. But his excitement took a hit when Professor Quirrell began the introduction of the subject. The stutter was worse than he remembered. So much so that it was hard to understand what he was saying. Harry was glad he already read all that stuff the professor was talking about, otherwise he wouldn't have understood a thing. After the introduction was over, Harry only knew that because everyone was putting away their quills in favor of wands, it was time to practice some basic spells that would be useful in defending yourself. Harry saw Malfoy raise his arm with a very eager look on his face. Why yes, Mr. Malfoy? Aren't we going to see any dark creatures? Quirrell looked frightened at mere mention of dark creatures. IT thought we'd learn some SP spells first to avoid accidents, eh? God damn, that stutter was annoying. First spell taught in defense class was Lumos. You just had hold the wand and say the word. It was so simple that even Crabbe and Goyle managed it on their first try. They were taught Nox after that, which was opposite of Lumos. Red sparks and green sparks were next. These two spells were supposed to be used in emergencies in case you needed help and want to alert people of your location. The desks were cleared and they were told to practice the spells until the end of class. That wasn't as exciting as I hoped, Naruto said as he walked together to the Great Hall with Harry. What were you hoping? First chapter covers how to treat werewolf bites, so I was hoping to see what a real werewolf looks like. Disappointment was clear in Naruto's voice. Yeah, the drawings in the textbook were pretty ugly, Harry admitted. They were black and white, Naruto said with obvious disgust in his voice. Harry laughed. You want colored pictures like a toddler? Naruto's gaze settled on Harry. In a deadpan tone he said, we live in a magical castle where moving and talking pictures is considered normal. At least the drawings moved on the page. Besides, we learned some useful spells today. Yeah, it's not charms but it was decent I guess, Naruto replied. Yeah, we too had fun in charms yesterday. Harry smiled at the memory. Seamus managed to set the floor on fire somehow. No kidding. In your class too? Yeah. Harry laughed. Wait, don't tell me someone in Slytherin torched the floor too? Not torched. But one guy managed to blast the floor. Grab or Coil, or whatever his name is. Harry laughter managed to turn a few heads around. It's Crab and Goyle, mate. You sure? That sounds wrong. Naruto mouthed the words a couple of times. Yes, I'm pretty sure. Don't tell me you've been calling them by those names. No, I never spoke to them before. Well, I'm going to the common room now. See you later. Harry ran off to the Gryffindor Tower, and Naruto headed to Greenhouse 4 for Herbology with Hufflepuffs. Greenhouse 4 was a large building near the Ravenclaw Tower. Its huge metal doors were locked as students waited for Professor Sprout to finish the obligatory introduction to the subject. Naruto hung at the back as the professor told them to put on their dragon hide gloves and safety goggles before entering. Once the professor saw that everyone had obeyed her instructions, she opened the doors. Greenhouse 4 was a dark and damp place where smells of compost and plants and flowers hung in the air. Also, the inside of the greenhouse was much larger than outside appearance might have suggested. Naruto stared wide-eyed at various weird-looking plants that were very faintly visible in the dark. No one aside from his sensei knew, but Naruto loved gardening. It was his only hobby aside from cooking. And now he was going to get to play with all these weird and magical plants. He was giddy with excitement, even though his expression and body language showed just a mild interest. Professor Sprout flicked her wand and torches were lit, illuminating only the part of greenhouse where the students were standing. Now, before we begin, I'm going to teach a very useful spell. Pay attention because it'll come in handy when dealing with dangerous magical plants. The plump middle-aged witch had a motherly voice and a gentle tone. Also, remember this rule of thumb: if you ever come across a dangerous plant, and you don't know how to deal with it, your best course of action would be to burn it. Most of the students were excited. Until now, they thought they'd just be taking care of boring plants, but now they'd get to burn stuff. What could be more fun than that? There's a very simple spell to create fire, and you'll learn the theory behind it from Professor Flitwick in Charms. Put away your wand for now, Miss Bones. We shall learn the incantation first. A slightly embarrassed Susan lowered her wand. In SENDO, Professor Sprout told them the incantation. Students dutifully repeated the word until Professor Sprout was satisfied. Then she showed them wand movement sort of like a silhouette of a small flame of a candle but not connected at the bottom, to be performed in one smooth clockwise motion. With one wave of her wand, Professor Sprout conjured wooden dummies for everyone and students lined up, eager to try a new spell. Shouts of incendio rang in the greenhouse, many getting it right on their first try while some took 2 or 3 efforts. Incendio, Naruto said firmly as he copied the wand movement he'd seen earlier. A large orange beam erupted from the tip of his wand and struck the wooden dummy dead in the chest. The spell was powerful. It not only torched the dummy in an instant but also knocked it several feet back. Naruto frowned at his wand. I need to learn better control, he decided. That creepy wand maker's words were still fresh in his mind. Dragon Heartstring produces strong magic, but it's also susceptible to fluctuations, more so than Phoenix Feather or Unicorn Tail Hair. Naruto would have to improve a lot if he wanted to get the best out of his wand. Shame on me if I let that Chinese fireball's heart go to waste. He was unaware of the shocked looks on his teammates' faces. They practiced until Professor was convinced that everyone had got the hang of the spell. Good. Now on to our first magical plant of the year. Without saying anything, Professor Sprout led them to the middle of the greenhouse and lit up torches there. In the yellow light, students saw a row of magical plants, although it looked more like very big coiled snakes. Snakes with huge yellow, deadly thorns. Some students looked visibly afraid, and rightly so. This is called spiky bush. As soon as the professor said this, Draco and the others began pointing at Naruto and giggling behind their hands. Even the Hufflepuffs joined in. Naruto grudgingly admitted it was fairly accurate comparison. What with his spiky blonde, almost yellow, hair and all. If you all stop sniggering, we can learn how to deal with this plant. The firm tone put a stop to their giggles. From the appearance, many of you have correctly guessed that it's a very dangerous plant. If anyone were to be foolish enough to get near it, the plant shoots those yellow thorns at very rapid speeds. These thorns are so fast that they are barely visible to the naked eye, which oftentimes results in a very serious or even lethal injury. Naruto saw that many students had turned pale. Those of magical background might have heard from their elders that potions and herbology go hand in hand, which is true, but in this case spiky bush is completely useless as far as potions are concerned. Again the class started sniggering. I'm good at potions, you pricks. So, the only thing we have left is to remove it. Safest and easiest way to do that is to burn it. Now line in front of a bush but don't get closer than 6 feet and cast the fire conjuring spell you just learned. With a wave of her wand, Professor Sprout drew a safety line for them. They all moved to line up, but Slytherins, being Slytherins, tried to push Hufflepuffs out of their way to get first crack at the plant. In this, Crabbe pushed Justin Finch Fletchley a little too hard and the latter found himself beyond the safety line. Justin's eyes went wide in horror, and he quickly jumped back, but one of the plants had already fired 4 thorns his way. In panic, he covered his face with his arms and waited for the inevitable as everyone held their breaths. After a couple seconds, when he didn't feel a scratch on him, Justin slowly opened his eyes. He saw that Naruto was standing before him with all 4 thorns in his hands, 2 in each. Naruto had snatched the deadly projectiles from midair, right as they were about to turn Justin into a pincushion. Thanks you. Justin somehow managed to get the words out. Don't mention it, Naruto said and walked back to his spot. In his shock, Justin barely heard Professor Sprout berate Crabbe and gave him a month's detention. He just watched open-mouthed as Naruto burned a bush. There you are. Naruto heard a voice and looked over his shoulder. Actually, he'd sensed her coming from like a mile away, but he had to keep up pretenses. It was one of the Slytherin prefects. The brunette that showed first years to common room on first day. He already forgot her name. I still have half an hour before curfew, Naruto simply said and turned to watch the lake once again. It was beautiful night, and he was once again at the wharf with his feet plunged in cold water. Since the classes were over, he was wearing his navy blue shirt and white shorts to enjoy the fresh air. I know that. I'm just here to relay a message. Professor Kettleburn wants to see you in his office, tonight if at all possible. Might as well see what he wants. Naruto reluctantly got up from what was becoming his favorite spot on the grounds. Cool breeze on his wet legs felt very pleasant. He picked up his sandals in his hand. He wanted to walk barefoot on the cool grass. Together they headed back to the castle. How long did it take you to find me? He asked. Gemma looked at her wristwatch. 1 hour and 36 minutes, she said. Did you search the whole castle before coming here? Naruto said with just a little amusement in his voice. Naruto managed not to laugh. She must have done so, for her to come to the lake of all places to look for him. You could have just waited in the common room, you know. I would have been back before curfew. Professor wanted me to find you as soon as possible. Besides, you have no idea how many first years get lost because of the changing staircases. They walked in silence for the rest of the way as Gemma led him to the professor's office on the 2nd floor. Professor Kettleburn was an old wizard. All of his hair were white, even his mustache. His face was riddled with scars and he had a bandage over his left eye. Naruto suspected his right hand was a prosthetic since it was moving a bit unnaturally. Kettleburn wasn't alone in his office. There was a middle-aged, dark-skinned witch with him too. Naruto recognized her as one of the professors he saw sitting near Dumbledore at the welcoming feast, but he didn't remember hearing her name. Ah, Miss Farley! Welcome, welcome! His energetic nature made Kettleburn look 10 years younger. Come join us for tea. Farley sat down opposite the 2 professors and accepted the offered cup. Naruto was still at the door. And this must be young Uzumaki. Kettleburn beamed at him. The other professor eyed him curiously. Come join us. Don't be nervous, you're not in trouble. Kettleburn laughed. Naruto took the chair beside Gemma. You sure it was him you saw, Aurora? Kettleburn asked, turning towards his colleague. Yes, the hair is unmistakable. Naruto realized that the lady hadn't taken her eyes off of him since he had stepped in the office. The hell do they want from me anyway? Excellent. Kettle clapped his hands. Mr. Uzumaki, I understand you saw that giant toad in lake yesterday, yes? How do you know about him? He asked instead of answering. Kettleburn's smile became even wider. Professor Sinistra has a habit of watching the grounds through her telescope. Mostly to keep an eye on students, Professor Sinistra replied. She watched you interact with that giant toad yesterday, Kettleburn told him. To be honest, I was a bit worried when that giant toad appeared out of nowhere near you. But when I saw you interact with it, my worry became curiosity. She saw me summon Mr. Gamma. And she came to me for answers, and even I didn't know of any toads that can grow that big. So, we are hoping you can help us out. After thinking about it for a little while, Naruto couldn't see any harm in that. Sure, what do you want to know? Do you know where it came from? For starters, I've been teaching care of magical creatures at this school for decades now, and I've never even heard of a toad that big. Sylvanus knows every creature that lives in the Forbidden Forest, or the lake, Professor Sinistra praised. So you can imagine his excitement at learning about a new animal on Hogwarts grounds. Naruto nodded in understanding. I met Mr. Gamma when I was 10. He's been my companion ever since, he answered. And where is it now? He went back home. Home? I don't know where is it, Naruto lied, but he comes whenever I call him. Could you call him now? Please? Naruto could see the excitement in the old professor's eye. One moment, he said, and got up from his chair. He walked to the middle of the room and bit his thumb. Ignoring the wince from Farley, he went through the familiar hand signs. A moment later, Mr. Gamma stood in front of him, clad in his usual armor. Marvelous! Kettleburn screamed and jumped out of his chair, startling the ladies in the process. He's wearing an armor. Yes, Mr. Gamma is a very good fighter, Naruto said with pride. What else can it do? Kettleburn asked, examining the toad from every angle. Not much else. He let them meet his friend, didn't mean he was gonna spill all the secrets. The professor spent a good part of next half an hour admiring Mr. Gamma. He even took pictures from every angle. He also wrote down height and weight. That about concludes it, the professor said finally. Thank you for coming, Mr. Gamma. You can go home now. Yes, thank you, Mr. Gamma. Kettleburn copied Naruto and bowed to the toad. I owe you one for introducing me to the most magnificent toad I've ever seen, Mr. Uzumaki. It was no trouble, Professor. Can you tell me more about how you called the toad? When I first met Mr. Gamma, I was taught a ritual. I don't know much about it. He couldn't very well tell him what summoning contract was, now could he? And it seemed like the old man bought his flimsy explanation, so there was no need to elaborate further. This ritual requires blood offering? Naruto just shrugged. Very well then. I think that'll be all, Mr. Uzumaki. Miss Farley, if you take him back to the common room, please. Naruto had almost forgotten about the girl. One more thing before you go, Mr. Uzumaki, the professor asked when he was at the door. Yes? Would be like to be my assistant? I'm sorry? My assistant. It's been a long tradition at Hogwarts. A care of magical creatures teacher is allowed to pick a student to assist him. My last student graduated this year, and Hagrid was my assistant too. You must have met him? The teacher gets some help, and the student gets to learn, even earn a small stipend on top of that. What do you say? Naruto thought about the offer seriously. He'd like a clean source of income. In the Muggle world, he constantly had to use transformation jutsu for various jobs since they didn't normally hire children as young as him. It was a bit frustrating, really. He also wondered what kind of magical creatures there were in the world. He decided it was a good offer. His decision was made. That sounds good. Naruto nodded. Great. Kettleburn beamed. I'll send for you tomorrow then. Chapter 2: Intruder in the Forest. Hey, Professor? Naruto asked as he followed the professor on a small trail into the Forbidden Forest. What is it? Why me? Naruto asked the question that had been bugging him for a while. At first, he had decided not to look gift horse in the mouth, but his curiosity just wouldn't let him sit still. What do you mean, why you? I mean, why did you pick me? I'm sure there are hundreds of kids older, smarter and more experienced than me at this subject. I mean, I don't even have care of magical creatures until 3rd year, so why did you pick me to assist you? The professor chuckled as he ducked under a low branch. It doesn't make much sense when you put it like that, does it? Well, I could have picked any of older students, that's true, but I want someone who truly loves magical creatures and not a bookworm who only studies them to get good grades. You understand what I'm saying? I think so. Is there really no one who enjoys working with animals? Hard to believe, isn't it? The professor gave him a toothy grin. It's difficult to fathom, really. You'd think kids would line up to even see magical beasts, to learn more about them. I mean, each one is more magnificent than the other. How could you not be excited about them? The old professor spoke with so much passion, it was contagious. Unicorns and thestrals and hippogriffs and dragons, I swear you'll never get tired of them. But young students would rather be playing exploding snap with friends, and when they get a bit older, their brains can't think of anything other than girls. If you say so, Professor. Kettleburn sighed. Does that answer your question? Naruto thought about it for a couple of seconds. Not really, no. Straightforward, I like that. It was because of Mr. Gamma, to tell you the truth, in part at least. He finally admitted. Naruto had a suspicion it was something like that. Also, he felt a bit better that the professor hadn't tried to lie to him. The old man beat around the bush a little, but at least he was honest in the end. Naruto appreciated that. I'm guessing Mr. Gamma can do a lot more than just fight, Professor said. Naruto knew it wasn't a guess but a deduction born of years of experience with magical beasts. It's okay, you don't have to answer. I'm sure you have your reasons to keep secrets, Kettleburn told him. It was a pathological habit, really. Naruto managed a small answer. Yes, he admitted. In that case, I hope one day you'll share those secrets with someone you trust. Kettleburn looked over his shoulder and smiled at him. It wasn't the toothy grin Naruto was beginning to expect from the old man. It was a kind of grandfatherly smile that would make you want to smile in return. Naruto didn't. I hope so too, Naruto muttered under his breath, looking at his feet. If Kettleburn heard, he didn't act like it. They walked a little distance in silence after that. Can you at least tell me about that ritual of yours? I admit it's nothing like anything I've ever seen before, and you didn't even use your wand or anything. It's got me really curious, the professor asked after a while. It's called a summoning ritual, the toads taught me. They created a contract with me when I first met Mr. Gamma. As per the contract, I can summon the toads by using my blood as an offering. Toads have their own brand of magic, so they can tell immediately when the ritual is being performed, and they transport to my location almost instantly, wherever I am. Naruto was proud of his bullshitting skills. And those hand gestures? Part of the ritual. What would happen if I performed the ritual? Would the toads come to me as well? No. The ritual is only the trigger. You have to have a contract with them first. Ah, that's disappointing. It had been a while since they were walking. At this point, the forest was getting a lot denser with the canopy blocking most of sunlight. The light was barely touching the ground. It wouldn't have taken as long, but Kettleburn had only one good leg. The second one was a prosthetic, just like one of his arm. You are an orphan? The professor asked him out of the blue. Yes. Naruto knew, the professor already knew that. Phileas told me he found you living in an abandoned warehouse. Naruto detected something akin to worry from the old man's tone. It was only temporary until I could find a real house. Why don't you live in an orphanage? I lived in one for a while. I hated it there. Thankfully, the professor detected how awkward the situation had become, so he dropped the subject. They walked in silence after that. Here we are. Kettleburn removed his backpack and dropped it to the ground when they reached a particularly big tree. Naruto looked around him. They were standing under a very large oak tree. This part of the forest was no different from the last mile they had walked. There was not a single animal in sight, let alone a magical one. Okay, but where's here exactly? Naruto was a little confused. This tree. Kettleburn slapped the trunk of the oak tree. This is our location. Naruto looked at the tree closely. He walked around it to get a better look. It looked like any other ordinary tree. Naruto couldn't find anything interesting about it. Was he missing something? Had his deduction skills deteriorated so rapidly in just 6 months? That thought was horrifying. His sensei would kick his ass if he found out. I'm sorry, old man, but I don't see anything here. There are no birds or anything on the branches either. Kettleburn laughed at him like he had told the funniest joke in the world. Naruto wondered if he could get away with murder. Nah, too many people saw me coming here with the geezer. Hang on, Kettleburn said when he was done laughing. The old man cupped his good hand around his mouth and made a weird noise. Look up that branch, the professor told him. Naruto's eyes followed his finger. He saw that some twigs were peeling away from the branch. Now, he was no botanist, but even he knew an oak shouldn't do that. Why are there small twigs on that branch? Finally noticed, have you? They are not twigs. Then what are they? You'll see in a minute. Kettle conjured a large wooden log. Hand me the can of wood lices. Naruto removed a large can from his backpack. The professor opened the lid and poured the lices on the log and took a couple of steps back. Naruto copied him. In just a few seconds, the twigs he saw earlier were peeling off the branches and dropped to the ground. Now that he got a closer look, Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. They were alive. They looked like stick figures a toddler would draw in his sketchbook. Long hands with only 2 fingers on each, 2 brown eyes and a small mouth, but they were very much alive. The stick figures dashed towards the log and quickly began munching on the wood lices. Kettle smiled at his reaction. They are bowtruckles. Beautiful, aren't they? Bowtruckles? Naruto crouched down near the log to get a closer look at the tiny creatures. Yes, they are today's topic for my OWL students. Oh? Naruto asked as he put some lices in his hand and offered them to a small bowtruckle. It was probably just a baby. Without any fear, it came towards him and sat in his open palm to eat the delicious bugs. Kettle smiled at him. Ordinary wizarding level, you'll sit them in your 5th year. Very important for your career. The professor pointed his wand at the log and floated it in front of them. They both began their journey back. Bowtruckles look quite harmless, but don't be deceived by their small stature and cute looks. Kettle began talking about the creatures while walking. Naruto still had his bowtruckle in his hand. They are vicious when provoked. Even the big predators stay away from their tree. If you threaten them or their home, the whole branch will target you. Most of them will try to gauge your eyes out. Branch? A group of bowtruckles is called a branch, Kettle cleared. Like most animals, bowtruckles are only dangerous to humans when they feel threatened. Foolish wizards underestimate them because of their size and pay the price with their eyes. For bowtruckles are very fast, you see, and they are very skilled at dodging spells. But even so, usually they are very peaceful creatures. And they are dead useful. The bowtruckle in his palm had finished all the lices and was looking at Naruto expectantly. Naruto smiled and poured more lices for the little guy. They are called a thief's best friend. Kettle continued his lecture. Thief's best friend? They can pick almost any lock in the world with those sharp fingers. Even muggles have a myth about them. A myth? Can't muggles see them? Normally, no. They are experts at camouflage. You didn't notice them at first either, did you? Kettle asked rhetorically. Somehow someone must have noticed their presence, and the myth began. It's mostly in Slavic countries, but it's known as the myth of Rašnovic plant according to Slavic people. It's a magical herb that can unlock any secrets or uncover any treasure. Naruto whistled. There must be a very high demand for them, then. It's a myth, Mr. Uzumaki. And a muggle one at that. It's true they can pick most locks, but they can't uncover any treasures. That part's completely untrue. You want nifflers to find treasures, the professor told him. But there are people who take myths more seriously than others. I have heard that there were many expeditions to find this mythical herb. Did they find anything? Kettle chuckled. No. Not for the lack of effort, mind you. But bowtruckles are native to western England and southern Germany, and there's only one colony in Norway as far as I'm aware. They only live in trees whose wood is suitable to make wands, you see. Naruto was listening to every word with rapt attention. His focus was completely on the professor's words. Really? He exclaimed in wonder. Who would have thought the stick figures would be so fascinating? The more he listened, the more he was impressed with the tiny creatures. Yeah, I have heard that old Ollivander only uses wood from bowtruckle trees. But isn't that dangerous? I mean, won't these bowtruckles attack him? You said they attack when you threaten their tree. That's why you offer them wood lices or fairy eggs as distraction. And take the wood when they are busy eating. Naruto nodded. You know, they say a bowtruckle was the first wand? Naruto giggled. He imagined waving the tiny creature around and trying to cast a spell. Kettle also laughed. Yeah, the story goes, when wizardkind didn't have wands, one adventurous young man accidentally cast a spell while holding a bowtruckle in his hand. The spell worked a lot more efficiently while doing so, and the young man crafted the first wand out of a corpse of a bowtruckle. Old professor turned to him. A word of advice, don't cast a spell with a bowtruckle in hand. A lot of people have tried to recreate the story. Fools. They got bleeding fingers for their troubles. Naruto laughed at the story. In just one trek he'd learned so much. The small lecture had ignited a bonfire of curiosity in him. And Naruto kept thinking about the bowtruckles even when he got back to the castle. He kept wondering about what other fascinating creatures lived in the forest even when he was in the dungeons for potions lecture. His mind just wouldn't budge from the topic. That blonde girl had sat with him again in class, but they weren't assigned anything to brew today, so they just had to sit in silence. Snape taught them about the individual ingredients of the cure for Boyle's potion, and they spent the whole lecture taking notes. Those that couldn't manage to brew the potion properly last time were told to brew it again in addition to taking notes. Given that he had already written the same things in his essay, it was positively boring and he had given up halfway through. Naruto was first one out of the dungeons as soon as the lecture was over. Today was the first practical lesson of Transfiguration. Naruto was again sitting in the second last seat by the window. His gaze naturally drifted towards the forest. Just one unassuming tree had showed him such wonderful creatures. Naruto kept wondering what else he might find there. He decided to check out the forest later that night. While he hoped to do so after he had finished exploring the castle, it was taking longer than he had expected, and he knew his feet would drag him to the forest by themselves if his curiosity wasn't sated. "Morning," Harry greeted him when he sat next to him. "Good morning," Naruto replied, still not taking his eyes away from window. "What are you looking at?" Harry asked, trying to look at what Naruto was watching so intently. "The forest." Harry followed Naruto's gaze and saw nothing but lush greenery. "Anything in particular?" "No. I'm just wondering what kinds of creatures live in that forest." "Don't even think about wandering in there, mate," Harry warned him before Naruto's thoughts could go any further. He had a pretty good guess where Naruto's thoughts were headed. "Fred and George told me werewolves, vampires and hags and all sorts of dark creatures live in the Forbidden Forest." Harry shuddered at the thought of entering the woods and immediately being surrounded by bloodthirsty vampires and hungry werewolves. "But there are also unicorns, hippogriffs and thestrals too," Naruto argued. He was never afraid of things like that. "What are hippogriffs?" "I have no idea." Harry had an amused smile on his face. "Then why'd you bring it up?" "It's something Professor Kettleburn told me. They are supposed to be really awesome half-eagle, half-horse creatures." "That does sound awesome." Harry imagined what a hippogriff would look like. His imagination had painted a wonderful picture for him, a horse with huge wings of an eagle, like a Pegasus. When the class began, Professor McGonagall did not waste any time on theory, since they had already spent the entire first lecture for that. Today, everyone was given a match and they were told to turn it into a needle. Naruto saw that bushy-haired girl's right hand was straight up in the air. "Professor, is there a spell for that?" she asked. "I was getting to that. For simple transfigurations there is no spell, nor is there any particular wand movement for you to follow. For this, you have to rely on your focus, concentration, and your magic to complete the task," McGonagall told them. "Point your wand at the match and hold it firmly. Do not wiggle or let it shake, that is very important. Picture a needle very clearly in your mind and try to turn the match into a needle. I know the instructions are a little vague, but this is something you'll have to learn by doing it." Again, the bushy-haired girl raised her hand. "Yes, Miss Granger?" "So her name is Ginger. Good to know." Naruto was getting tired of referring to her as that bushy-haired girl. "What about the Transfiguration alphabet, Professor? You told us it'll be useful in learning the subject." Naruto agreed with Ginger. He spent a lot of effort in trying to learn the complex alphabet, so he'd very much like if it were of some use. Transfiguration alphabet is useful in more complex transfigurations, mostly in conjuration, vanishment, and untransfiguration. We'll learn its uses in due time," McGonagall explained, and the girl's hand stayed down this time. Apparently she had no more questions. The class turned their attention back towards the assigned match. Students had their wand pointed at it, and were glaring at the object, as if trying to intimidate it into turning into a needle. For Naruto, it was a comical sight to see. These kids reminded him of himself when he was 6 and his sensei had just taken him under his wing. Naruto was good at concentration now, but that wasn't always the case. He had always had an hyperactive mind, so learning to concentrate hadn't come easy to him. Most things didn't. But he had learned, and he had been reaping rewards ever since. Like now, it took him less than a minute to convert the match into a needle. He was careful to use as little magic as possible to avoid unnecessary fluctuations. He didn't want a repeat of what happened in Herbology. Thankfully, magic was a lot easier to handle than chakra, so it wasn't that much of a problem to regulate the flow. It did require a little getting used to it though. He channeled the tiniest amount of magic possible, and worked his way up until he saw the result, which wasn't very long. This was a piece of cake compared to a transformation jutsu, which was a lot more complicated and difficult. Both this transfiguration and transformation jutsu needed attention to detail, a lot of attention to detail in case of the jutsu, only difference being that he was using magic this time instead of chakra. Basic principle was the same. How the hell did you manage it on first try? Harry yelled in whisper, his voice was laced with frustration. His own match had only managed to change its color to silver in some places. Otherwise it was unchanged. Calm your mind. Try to get all other thoughts out of your mind and picture a needle very clearly, as detailed as possible. Naruto told him. You don't think I tried that? Harry deadpanned. Then I don't know what to tell you other than focus better. Thanks a lot, genius. Harry spat out and turned his attention back to the task at hand. Naruto had an amused smile on his face. Okay, fine, he said, and Harry's attention was immediately back on him like a switch had been flipped. Naruto-sensei will teach you his secrets and make you an expert at focusing on random crap. Harry smiled. Hi, sensei, he exclaimed. Naruto raised an eyebrow at him. I saw it in a movie once, Harry explained. All right. Close your eyes, all four of them. Harry scowled but did as asked. He liked it better when Naruto gave nicknames to other people. Hold your wand close to your chest and focus on the magic coursing through your body. Harry's face was contorted when he was trying to focus on his magic. I can't find it, he said in frustration after a couple of minutes of trying without results. Don't be so impatient. It is very faint, but it's still there. Try to remember the feeling you got when you first held your wand. Try to remember the pleasant warmth. Naruto had no trouble locating the feeling because he had years of practice accessing his energy already. It might be a little difficult for Harry though. Harry closed his eyes once again. He felt Naruto's finger touch his closed hand that held the wand. Start here, he heard Naruto say, and then follow it. Harry shifted all his attention to his hand, trying to find even the slightest bit of warmth there. It was a lot harder than he imagined. Even more so because of the cool air from that damned window. Just when he was feeling like he was getting something, the wind was undoing his hard work. Still, Harry did not open his eyes. He was determined to find that warmth. Harry's focus kept breaking by even the slightest of noise from the other students. It was really hard to focus in such a noisy room. But he kept trying even if success felt a long way off. Okay, that's enough, Naruto slapped his shoulder lightly to get him to open his eyes. Why did you do that? Harry's voice was a bit louder than he intended. And sure enough, McGonagall heard him. Is there a problem, Mr. Potter? She asked and walked towards their desk. No, Professor. Harry and Naruto both answered at the same time. I assume you both were hard at work then? She asked them in an accusatory tone. Yes, Professor, Harry replied, looking dejectedly at his match that was still more wood than silver. McGonagall saw his match. No need to look so down, Potter, that's a very good first attempt. I never expected any of you to actually turn the match into a needle on your first day. Most students take a week at least to complete this task. The professor's tone was comforting, but it didn't have the desired effect on Harry's spirit. On the contrary, Harry looked even more dejected than before. He did it on his first try. He told McGonagall with a voice barely above whisper, and his thumb pointed directly at Naruto's chest. As soon as she heard that, McGonagall's eyes widened in surprise. May I see your match, Mr. Uzumaki? She asked. Naruto handed her the shiny needle. McGonagall brought it close to her eye to examine. She saw it was perfectly smooth silver-colored needle with a very sharp point at one end and a small hole at the other. She smiled widely, clearly very happy with what she saw. Congratulations, Mr. Uzumaki. You are the first student to turn the match into a perfect needle on your first day. She showed him a rare smile. Not even I had managed such a thorough job on my first day. 10 points. She announced and showed the needle to the whole class, praising him all the while. Naruto's face was slightly red from all the praise and he had to make a conscious effort not to scratch the back of his head. He didn't know what to do with all these positive emotions he was suddenly feeling. Most he'd received from his sensei was an eye smile or a pat on the head if he had done something spectacular. His sensei wasn't a very expressive person, so Naruto always felt those small gestures were the greatest praise he could receive because he knew that was the best his sensei was capable of. He wasn't used to hearing praise from anyone else other than his sensei, so it was a little overwhelming. Naturally, he didn't know how to handle it, so he did only thing that came to his mind. He began to stare at his feet, effectively hiding his blush from his fellow students. In doing so, he missed the surprised and shocked looks on their faces. When the class ended, no one else had managed to turn their match into a needle like him. Ginger had come closest, All of her match was silver and rather pointy, as McGonagall had said, and Harry's match was more silver than wood, but still it was more a match than a needle. If you hadn't broken my concentration, I would have found my magic, Harry told him when they were walking to the Great Hall together after the class. Naruto was looking forward with his hands in his pockets, while Harry was trying to glare a hole in the side of his face. Harry wasn't even looking ahead of him to see where he was going, completely focused on making his displeasure known as he was. No, you wouldn't have. Focus is a lot harder than it sounds, I know that from first-hand experience. Especially in a noisy environment like our class. I was this close. Harry emphasized his point by gesturing with his index finger and thumb. He chose to completely ignore what Naruto had said. Naruto let out a loud sigh. Okay, I get it. Meet me at the lake at 5. We'll have nice atmosphere there. Harry's mood did a complete 180. You should have said that sooner. I'll see you there. He beamed and dashed towards the Gryffindor Tower. Naruto, on the other hand, went to the kitchen. It had been a while since he had tasted ramen. Today was the day to change that, even if he had to make it himself. That filthy mudblood. Who the hell does he think he is? Malfoy was whining at lunch to anyone who would listen. Apparently he was not happy that someone his age was better than him, a pure blood, at magic. I reckon he cheated somehow, I can guarantee it. Okay, first off, you don't even know if he really is a mudblood. And second, what makes you think he cheated? We didn't even know about today's lesson until McGonagall gave us the matches, Zabini said with a mouth full of chicken, spraying bits of food with every word. His neighbors made disgusted faces at him, but he didn't seem to have noticed. I know he is a mudblood, Malfoy snapped at Zabini. His voice managed to draw the attention of Daphne and Sally Smith, who were engaged in their own hushed conversation. Back on the train, he didn't even know what a half-blood was. And he was dressed like a muggle, so I am certain he is a mudblood, Malfoy added in a much lower voice this time, so only his friends could hear him. He very conveniently forgot to address the second part of Zabini's question. Can we not talk about mudbloods while eating? Theodore Knott said with obvious disgust in his voice. We have flying class after lunch and I'll need my strength. The mention of flying class put a wide grin on Malfoy's face. What's so funny? Zabini asked. I can't wait for flying class. I bet that whiskered freak won't know which end of the broom to sit on, Malfoy said with much cheerful tone. It had the desired effect of drawing out laughter and further mockery of their absent housemate. Naturally, their discussion turned from flying to Quidditch. A few seats away, Daphne rolled her eyes. Boys, she muttered. Ugh, tell me about it, Sally added. Since the school started, only things I've heard them talk about are Quidditch and that Uzumaki boy. Oh, he's not so bad, Daphne defended her potions partner. Oh, really? Weren't you the one complaining about that rude boy last night? Or did I mistake some random girl for my best friend? Sally asked with a raised eyebrow. Well, yes, he is rude, no question about that. But he is also good at potions. And very gifted in Transfiguration too, apparently. She felt no shame in giving due credit to someone who deserved it. You don't think he cheated? The other boys clearly think so, Sally said, looking at the said boys who were knee-deep in argument about upcoming Tornadoes versus Harpies match. Draco wasn't a big fan of Tornadoes apparently, either did he want the Harpies to win. Daphne scoffed, the boys are just jealous. Do you really think a first year could fool Professor McGonagall? She asked rhetorically. Sally shrugged, maybe not. He's your friend apparently, so you know about this the best. Daphne snorted, friend? And him? We haven't even talked to each other properly yet. He's one of those broody silent types. Yeah, what's up with that anyway? Does he think everyone here is beneath him or something? Dunno. He seems to get along fine with Potter. Daphne had finished her lunch, so she got up to leave for the flying class. Sally fell in beside her. She had a mischievous grin on her face. How do you know? Are you stalking him? She asked. As if. Daphne defended herself far too quickly. It's called observation, Sally. He always sits with Potter in class and they talk freely by the looks of it. She added in a much calmer tone. If you say so. Her friend shrugged. Sally thankfully let the subject go. Daphne knew she would have been teased mercilessly if Sally was in the mood. Come on, let's stroll by the lake, Daphne said, and the two friends exited the Great Hall. At 2 in the afternoon, students had already gathered at training grounds by the greenhouses. Broomsticks were lined up in 2 neat rows and Slytherins and Gryffindors stood opposite to each other. Unlike other subjects, there was no theory for flying, nor did Madame Hooch give any introduction. They were simply told they were going to learn how to fly on a broom. Only reason the subject was taught because flying was awesome. And Naruto loved that fact. Even as a first year, you weren't required to attend this class, you were free to skip flying if you so chose. But everyone was there at training grounds and most of them looked very eager. Except for Ginger and the fat kid from Gryffindor, they looked positively terrified. Stand to the left side of broom and hold your right palm open above it, Madam Hooch instructed. In a firm tone and with feelings, say, up. Most students didn't succeed on first try, but there were a few who managed to get their broom to fly up in their hands. Harry was the first to achieve so, Malfoy and Naruto were close behind. After that, Not, Zabini, Seamus, Dean, Daphne, Sally and Lily Moon managed it without much difficulty as well. Madam Hooch had to give some advice to others who were having a hard time with the task. Malfoy had already mounted his broom and was looking very smug as watched the rest of them. The Gryffindors laughed loudly when Madam Hooch walked up to him and corrected Malfoy's technique, and told him he'd been doing it wrong for years. They had to stand nearly 15 minutes like that till everyone was caught up. Now mount your broom and kick the ground hard. Go up a few feet before getting back down gently. Tilt the handle of your broom downwards for that. Your balance is very important for this. The instructor's voice rang in the training grounds. Naruto did not like the idea of sitting on a broom at all. But everyone else had mounted theirs and Hooch was looking at him expectantly. Naruto had no choice, but thankfully his brilliant mind came up with a genius solution for this. He let go of his broom and it hovered in front of him, albeit shakily. Naruto jumped up and stood on the handle of the broom. 1, 2, 3. Mr. Uzumaki, what in Merlin's name are you doing? The instructor yelled at him. Is there a problem, Professor? Naruto scratched the back of his head. Everyone was looking at him, half of them with awe, rest with amused smiles, and the professor with a horrified expression on her face. Yes. Standing like that is very dangerous. She snapped at him. She was livid she had to point that out. Honestly, this Slytherin was worse than any Gryffindor. You'll fall off and die if you don't sit a broom properly. Malfoy smirked from his position. Told you, he wouldn't know how to sit a broom. He whispered to Zabini. Apparently he was quick to forget his own very recent embarrassment. But sitting on a broom like that looks really uncomfortable. Naruto defended his stance. Besides, I can balance myself just fine like this. I won't fall off. Well, he was standing rather comfortably on the broom with no visible effort, like he was standing on solid ground. But Madam Hooch was having none of it. The brooms have cushioning charms on them, Mr. Uzumaki. Her patience was running thin. If you don't follow my instructions, I'll have no choice but to ban you from my class, she threatened. Naruto considered her words. He liked the idea of flying, and if there were really cushioning charms, he gently prodded the sitting area with his right foot. About half feet above the wooden stick, his foot touched something soft and invisible. Understanding dawned on his face. He hopped down and sat on the broom like a normal person. His classmates were sniggering at his antics. Kick the ground hard to lift off, hover for a few seconds and tilt the handle downward to get back to ground. She reiterated and blew her whistle loudly. Everyone followed the instructions and rose in the air. Now that he knew his family jewels were safe, Naruto decided he liked flying. It was a nice feeling. It was time to get down, but Naruto saw that the chubby kid from Gryffindor had lost his balance. And along with it, his control of the broom. Instead of coming down, he went higher. The broom was making erratic, jerky motions and the kid's horrendous balance wasn't helping any. The instructor was frantically asking, yelling at him to get down, but it was of no use. The broom was now flying towards Defense Against Dark Arts Tower. The broom bumped once, twice from the tower, and the kid finally lost his balance and began his free fall from at least 100 feet. Naruto looked at their instructor, who was very much still in panic and didn't look like she was going to do anything. So Naruto pointed his wand at ground below the falling boy and cast the softening charm. Thanks to the charm, instead of breaking his bones, the ground bounced him back up. This repeated a couple of times. Naruto saw that the charm would keep at it like that. So he ran towards the boy. Naruto jumped and caught him in midair easily. He didn't need the bouncy ground's help in jumping up and catching the kid. He had angled his jump so when he came down, he would land outside the area affected by the softening charm. Like every ninja, the habit of helping people was ingrained in him from a young age. You okay? Naruto asked. Why yes, the boy answered in a shaky voice. When Naruto brought him back to the group, the kid received an earful for his reckless flying and Naruto was awarded 5 pointed for his quick thinking. No one had thought twice about how he was able to casually jump 50 feet in the air. They all just assumed it was due to the trampoline-like ground. Rest of the time passed rather quietly after that. It was 4:30 when the class ended. Flying was a lot of fun. And time flied when everyone was having fun. Naruto had chosen not to return to the castle just yet. It was a beautiful day outside, so he had decided to wait for Harry by the lake. He was in his usual spot, his robes were lying in a messy pile beside him, and he had an intense look of concentration on his face. The reason was because he had tip of wand in the lake, and he was trying to charm the water into forming tiny Naruto water clones. He wasn't having much luck with that. He managed to get the water to rise up in small bubbles and even formed spherical shape a couple of times, but it looked nowhere near even slightly humanoid. Let alone a clone. The fluctuations of his wand were not helping either. The wand was constantly going back and forth between too little output and blasting the water in his face. But Naruto was more stubborn than his wand was moody, he just kept at it. Are you even human? He heard a soft bell-like voice from behind him. Without missing a beat he replied, jury is still out on that one. Only after he had spoken, Naruto turned around to see who it was that had decided to disturb him. He had sensed her coming already, of course. It was that brunette from his class, the one that was always with Greengrass. What was her name again? The girl raised her eyebrow at his answer, and Naruto scowled at her. Don't scowl, especially at a girl, it's rude. She chastised him. Naruto's face softened. He realized it was rather rude of him. Sorry. What do you want, Uma? Sally. Sally Smith. What do you want, Sally Smith? I want to know how you jumped that high. The girl asked and sat down beside him without even asking. Now who's being rude? Softening charm, I cast it on the ground. Naruto replied and went back to trying to make tiny clones out of water. And it let you handle Longbottom as if you were made of cotton? Man, she's persistent. I'm strong. Naruto answered simply. Isn't your friend lonely by herself? He tried to divert the girl's attention away from nosy questions. Sally looked over her shoulder. Daphne was still standing at a distance, and was pretending to be invisible by the looks of it. Sally waved her over. Daphne. Come over here, he's worried about you. Naruto scowled at her again, and the girl just laughed. Didn't I just tell you not to scowl at a girl? It's very rude. She even pointed a finger at him this time to emphasize her point. Is that why you came here? To teach me manners? But I have no interest in doing something so troublesome. This is a nice spot, and I'm not going to wait for you to leave to enjoy this beautiful scenery. Naruto didn't say anything else. Daphne had arrived by this point, and she copied them by sitting down and putting her feet in the water. Suddenly, Naruto got the urge to pull a prank on his classmate. It was her own fault being nosy. Do you want to see something cool? He asked the girls. Both girls nodded at him. It's a new spell I've been practicing. Naruto rose up to his feet and motioned for the girls to get up as well. He pointed his wand at himself and made a really complicated movement with it. Then he jumped in the lake. Both girls had their jaws dropped open when instead of sinking in, he just stood on the water surface as if it were solid ground. Then he pointed the wand at the girls and repeated the wand movement. Hop in! He beckoned them. You are unsinkable now, no matter what you do you won't sink. See, Naruto emphasized the point by jumping twice. The girls looked at him. Naruto was standing there with his hands in his pockets and an expectant look on his face. They both stood up, took a step back and jumped. But instead of standing on the water like Naruto, they both sunk in the water. It was a couple of seconds until they realized they had been pranked. But when they did realize, both girls let out a string of sentences so colorful, it made Naruto blush. The girls helped each other out of the water, still yelling at him in their rather creative language, and stomped off towards the castle. This was the scene Harry witnessed when he arrived. What happened? He asked, grinning from ear to ear. They fell in the lake, Naruto told him. He too had a small smile on his face. You want to see something cool? Naruto asked him. Yes, sure, Harry agreed immediately. Naruto once again pulled out his wand and made some complicated movements with it, but in reality he was just circulating chakra within him, not unlike the first stage of the Rasengan, but only within. The chakra control trick calmed the ripples on the surface of the lake, starting at the soles of his feet. Next second, the surface of the entire lake looked like a crystal clear mirror. Harry looked down and stared at his very clear reflection in amazement. He could see the bright green eyes staring back in the eternally messy black hair. He could see the clouds as if he were looking straight up at the sky, and he could even count the birds that were flying above his head. That's so cool. Come on. Naruto motioned him forward. The surface is solid now. Naruto proved his point by stomping his foot on the lake. There were a couple of small ripples, but those died down quickly. Harry looked convinced, and Naruto had to use all his self-control not to start laughing. A moment later, Harry too jumped in the lake. Lord bless his pure and gullible heart, and Naruto couldn't control it any longer. He burst out laughing. "It's even funnier the second time," he roared. In the back of his mind, he realized it had been a long time since he had laughed so openly. He had forgotten how fun it was to prank people. When he realized what had happened, Harry also used some very colorful words in reference to Naruto. He wasn't as creative as the girls though, but he still had a lot to say. In the back of his mind, Harry realized that even if Naruto pulled a prank on him, he liked it. It was fun. Not like Dudley and his pranks when he destroyed things and blamed it on him. So wasn't really mad at Naruto, not at all. Naruto pulled him out of the water and put him on the wooden platform. "I swear I'll get you back for this," Harry promised, wringing the water out of his robes. "It's your own fault for falling for such an obvious trick. I mean, you saw the girls, didn't you?" Harry blushed in embarrassment. "But how are you standing on water like that? Who would blame him for believing that the water surface was solid?" Naruto shrugged. "Magic." "Yeah, I figured out that part by myself, funnily enough. I mean, what spell are you using? Why the hell did he have to be so secretive about a spell anyway?" Naruto smiled at him. "Why don't you find out?" "Oh ho, is that a challenge? Let it be known that a Gryffindor never turns down a challenge, even if it's about something as mundane as finding out information about a spell." "I guess so." Naruto was amused at this turn of event. "I'll give you 1 year to find out about what spell I used." "And what do I get if I succeed before that?" 50 galleons. Naruto replied instantly. "Deal." Harry quickly agreed and they shook hands. "Before that though, I want to find my magic." Harry reminded Naruto of the original purpose of their meetup. "Yeah, sit down." Harry did so. "Take out your wand and close your eyes. Focus at the point of contact between your hand and wand. Now give it a wave." Harry waved his wand and red sparks shot out of it. "Did you feel anything?" "Yes, but it was too quick." Harry scowled. "Naruto, do you read?" Harry was a little confused at the random question. "Sometimes." "Have you ever got lost in a book so much that the surroundings vanished from your mind? Like nothing else existed in the world but the book and you?" Yes, Harry knew that feeling very well. He wasn't the most studious person, but there were some books that had that effect on him. "That kind of concentration and focus is what we're looking for here," Naruto told him. "Try again." Again and again and again, Harry kept making sparks with his wand and focusing as best as he could, but trying to catch the fleeting warmth before it disappeared was insanely hard. He kept at it long after the sun had set. Finally, Naruto had to force him to get up. "Okay, clearly this is going to take some time. I guess jumping to that step was probably a bad idea. I have another step before that. Kinda like a shortcut if you want to get good at Transfiguration quickly." Harry tilted his head. "Am I really that bad at it?" he asked. His words did not manage to hide his disappointment. "No, it's nothing like that," Naruto quickly assured him. "It's true, learning to access magic consciously would help you in all spells, but I thought if you had some success with Transfiguration first, it would give you a morale boost." Harry was relieved to hear that. "But don't the adults always caution us against taking shortcuts?" Naruto nodded. "Yes, there are some things where shortcuts do us more harm than good, but if positives outweigh the negatives, what's the harm in it? And I can guarantee there's nothing negative about what I'm about to tell you. It's not even a shortcut, really." "Okay then, let's try it." "Close your eyes," Naruto told him again, "this time for a different reason. I'm going to ask you a few simple questions. I want you to answer them as quickly as possible, okay?" "Alright, ask away." "What color is my shirt?" "Blue." "Be more specific." "Dark blue." Naruto nodded. "What's written on it?" "A north wind?" "Are you telling me or are you asking me?" "North wind," Harry said with more conviction this time. "What color are my pants?" "Light blue jeans." "Am I wearing shoes or sandals?" "Neither. I saw your sandals beside your robes earlier." Naruto smiled. "Which finger am I wearing my ring on?" "A Himitsu." "Which arm do I have bandages wrapped on? Right or left?" "It's a left." "No, right." "You can open your eyes now." Harry opened his eyes and saw Naruto was showing him both his hands. There was no ring or bandages on them. Those were trick questions, Harry accused. Obviously. Do you see the problem? Yeah, I should have known you wouldn't wear jewelry. Naruto chuckled. Well, yes, but that's not what I meant. You see, when we look at something, our mind tends to subconsciously ignore small details that we think are irrelevant or unimportant. And when we can longer see that thing, our brain cannot imagine those details on its own. He had also received similar lecture from his sensei when he was younger. Harry nodded. Okay, so what you're saying is what is it you're saying? When you were told to picture a needle in your mind, what do you imagine it to be? I imagine a tiny, sharp metallic object with a small hole at one end. That is more or less what a needle is, but when you're transfiguring a match into one, exactly how long do you want it to be? What about the hole? What's its shape? Circular or oval? How sharp is the point? Harry got in a deep think. I feel like an idiot, he said after a few moments. Who would have thought he was ignoring so much details in a simple, stupid object like that? You are not an idiot, Naruto shook his head. You have what my sensei calls an hyperactive mind. That means it's a bit difficult for you to focus on something for too long. And in your haste, you forget some details. Naruto told him he had gotten a similar lecture of his own multiple times. He scratched the wooden plank he was sitting on with his first finger and removed a splinter. He twirled it between his first finger and thumb. Every spell has 3 components. Wand movement, incantation and intent, Harry said instantly. He remembered reading that very clearly. Yes, saying the incantation helps the intent, that's what the book says. But in Transfiguration there's no incantation to begin with, and for this task there's no wand movement either. Harry's eyes shone with realization, so all we have is intent. Naruto nodded. That's right, 5 points to Gryffindor. Harry and Naruto both chuckled. Take this and try to turn it into a needle. This time, imagine exactly how long do you want your needle to be, the size of the small hole, the smoothness of the metal, everything. Don't leave even the tiniest detail out, Naruto told him. Harry took the splinter from Naruto's hand and set it down. He pointed his wand at it, and imagined his needle to be of exact same size as the splinter. He imagined a small oval-shaped hole at one end and a sharp point at the other. He imagined the smooth and shiny texture of the metal. He began at one end and worked his way to the other. In under 5 minutes he watched the rough brown wooden splinter turn into a shiny metallic needle. It was tempting to begin cheering as soon as the wood started to turn, but he held it in. He did not want to be distracted and screw it up. I did it! Harry yelled when he finally succeeded. Naruto smiled and clapped him on the shoulder. Congratulations, 4 Eyes. That was good work. It feels awesome. Harry was grinning from ear to ear. Come on, pick some more splinters. Harry did not want it to be a fluke. He made Naruto pick out 10 more splinters, and only after he had successfully turned them all into needles, he was satisfied. Come, I'm getting hungry now. Naruto stood up and stretched his hands above his head. It was easily well past 6 at this point. Harry decided to call it a day for now as well. Thanks, he told Naruto when they were walking back to the castle. For helping me. Don't mention it. What about the other thing? Harry asked. What other thing? That focusing thing? Oh yeah, that. You can keep practicing that on your own. If you can access magic consciously and learn to regulate its flow, most spells will be a piece of cake. I'm sure you'll get it soon. Honestly, it was hard, especially for someone like Harry who had a hyperactive mind, much like himself. But he suspected Harry would succeed soon, given how quickly he turned the splinter into a needle. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Neville told me to thank you on his behalf, Harry said suddenly when they were near the doors of the castle. Who's Neville? The guy that fell from the broom in flying class? Honestly, you talked so much about focus and attention to details earlier, can't you even remember simple names? Harry asked incredulously. Naruto shrugged. I pay attention to important things. Harry shook his head in amusement. You are unbelievable. I do wear jewelry, by the way. Harry immediately turned on him. A wide smile was on his face. Really? Naruto nodded. A locket. Huh, who would have thought? They parted ways in Great Hall. Naruto headed to Slytherin table and Harry went to the Gryffindor tower to change out of his still wet clothes. After dinner, instead of going to the dungeons, Naruto headed out of the castle once again. He was headed straight for the Forbidden Forest. When he was on the edge of the woods, he made a shadow clone and sent it back in his stead, in case someone became curious of his whereabouts. He did not want to answer awkward questions. When that part was taken care of, Naruto dashed into the forest. Leaves crunched beneath his feet as he ran at breakneck speeds, ducking under low branches and jumping over hedges and bushes. He ran until he was so deep in the forest that he couldn't see a clear path anymore. Here, Naruto stopped and took in his surroundings. He could hear the chirping of insects, and rustling of trees, and an occasional howl of wolves and cries of foxes. Naruto smiled. It felt good to be back in a forest, even if he couldn't see a thing. Naruto, by no means was a censor, but his hearing and sense of smell wasn't too shabby. Not as good as his sensei's, but still better than most. Naruto closed his eyes and listened to the sounds of the forest. In the midst of all the sounds, Naruto clearly heard the sound of running water. He jumped onto a high branch of the nearest tree and headed in that direction. So far he hadn't seen any magical creatures, and a water source seemed like a good place to find some. It took him no time at all to reach the small creek. He stopped on a branch a safe distance away when he noticed some snow-white animals in the water. They were small, only about 3 feet tall, llama-like creatures, and most of their height was due to their long necks. Even if their body was like a llama, they had duck-like webbed feet and comically huge blue eyes that shone like will-o-wisps. They looked like something out of a cartoon. Their cries were something between a quack of a duck and meow of a cat. Naruto noticed one of them was about a feet more taller than the rest, probably the mother of the group. The smaller ones, children, were ducking under the water and coming up a few seconds later. 1 or 2 times, they managed to catch fish in their mouths. Naruto saw them swallow the fish whole. He also noticed that these creatures had the ability to teleport, because one of the children disappeared with a soft pop and reappeared on its sibling's back, only to fall in the water when the sibling vanished with a soft pop of its own. Naruto watched the peaceful creatures play with a soft smile on his face. All of a sudden, all the noise in the forest died down. Naruto noticed it immediately. His eyes became sharper and a kunai slid into his hand automatically. In front of him, the creatures who were so far having the time of their lives teleported away, probably to safety. Without making noise, Naruto hid himself in the trees and scanned his surroundings. He was not aware of all the creatures that lived in the forest, but he did know one thing. When all noise suddenly dies down in a forest, there's always something behind it. And usually that something turns out to be something bad. Blue Eyes kept scanning the surroundings, but he wasn't having any luck in finding whatever that was out there. Then, out of corner of his eye, Naruto saw a shadowy figure move through the trees, hovering a few feet above the ground. Naruto put his sensei's lessons on stealth to good use and followed the figure. When he got closer, Naruto got a good look at whatever this creature thing was. It looked more a cloak than anything humanoid, or beast-like for that matter. Whatever it was, it barely had any form, but Naruto clearly made out a shape of a skull. Naruto followed the cloak skull thing for a good while. It was looking for something, that much was clear. He found out what soon after that. They were at a small clearing and a white horse was standing there. A magnificent stallion with a gleaming white coat that seemed to have a shine of its own and golden hooves. But even more interesting thing about it was the horn on its forehead. A unicorn, Naruto realized. The shadowy thing did something and the unicorn froze for a little while, which was enough for the cloaked creature to pounce on it. Sound of skin being torn reached Naruto's ears. It was a sad sight to see such a beautiful animal die. Who am I to meddle with natural order of things? Naruto returned back to the castle soon after that. He had several questions on his mind that he would like to get some answers for. Hogwarts quickly fell in their schedule. Days seemed like blurs to students, and weeks somehow managed to merge together. And in the blink of an eye it was 10th of October. Naruto woke up on his birthday in a sour mood. Unlike most other 12-year-olds, Naruto hated his birthday. But it wasn't like he hated his birthday because he hated his life or anything asinine like that. It just happened to be the day his hero died. Who would like a day like that? His eyes went to the large poster on the wall. Lord Forth's kind face and gentle smile was the first thing he saw every morning when he woke up. He had bought the poster when he was just 5 years old. Money was tight back then, and the poster was really expensive, but he'd have gladly starved himself if it meant he got his hero's poster. Naruto shifted his gaze upwards at ceiling and his somber mood became a little bit better. There was a poster on the ceiling as well. From this poster, Princess Gale smiled at him. Naruto let out a yawn. Good morning, Princess. He greeted a poster. His first and only crush said nothing back. Naruto set aside the body pillow and got up to start his day. His room was neat, even with his habit of making a mess of his living space. Thank God for those elves. But a couple of books were still open on his desk from last night. Even after more than months digging up books about various creatures, he had no clue what that creature in the forest was. He was sure Old Man Kettleburn would know, but he couldn't just ask him outright, now could he? The old man would know immediately that he'd been sneaking off into the forest for this past month. That would prompt an unnecessary interrogation. He'd very much like to avoid that. He had not seen that thing after that first time, so he didn't have a lot of information to work with, except it fed on unicorns. It was something like a side project for him. Naruto changed into suitable clothes for his morning training and descended down to the common room. There was no one here, which wasn't surprising since it wasn't even 5 in the morning yet. He went out to the grounds to work his body into exhaustion. Every day it was like a battle against his own ungodly stamina. Can I tire myself before breakfast today? Naruto wondered. It definitely would be a first for him. Harry woke bleary-eyed at 6:30 in the morning today. His dorm mates were still sound asleep, and the room was filled with snores from Seamus and Ron. It was another nice day, with plenty of sunlight and crisp, cool air. He yawned loudly and went to the window. Morning view from Gryffindor Tower was always breathtaking. He could the trees of Forbidden Forest gently swaying with the morning breeze, Hagrid working in the pumpkin patch, and at the edge of his vision, the Whomping Willow, which was busy whomping something. That was odd. It looked like someone was there. Some unfortunate fool had probably walked close to the murderous tree. Harry felt sorry for the poor soul. He fished his telescope from his trunk to see who it was, so he would at least have the name to report to the teachers. When he looked through the telescope, though, he saw the familiar shock of very recognizable blonde hair. Naruto! Suddenly Harry was a lot more worried than a few moments ago. His worry seemed to be unfounded, though. When he looked closer, he saw that Naruto was dodging and weaving through the attacking branches with apparent ease. His hands were tucked in his pockets, and he didn't look fazed at all. Even with his hands in his pockets, Naruto was flipping through the air, ducking under sweeping branches, and at one point he even stuck to a branch upside down. All done with such balance, grace, and elegance that it would put any Olympic gymnast to shame. Harry knew at this point that Naruto had not accidentally walked in the range of the tree. His eyes widened when Naruto flicked away a thick branch with the back of his hand. Wow! Look at him go! He muttered in amazement. Malphus lucky Naruto has a chill personality. Harry chuckled. Are you peeping on girls? He heard Dean ask, but Harry did not take his eye away from the telescope. Come take a look at this. Harry waved his friend over. Dean dashed over instantly. Must be someone really pretty if she managed to get Mr. Potter's attention. He muttered and snatched the telescope from Harry's hands. Wow! Look at him go! He repeated Harry's earlier words. He was almost disappointed there was no pretty girl at the other end of the telescope, but the breathtaking acrobatic display was the next best thing, Dean decided. Isn't that the Slytherin bloke you hang out with, Harry? Yeah, he's Naruto. He should compete in the Olympics. He'd definitely bag a gold for Britain. Dean unknowingly voiced Harry's earlier thought. Man, I would brag about it nonstop if I was that good. Harry chuckled. Naruto is not one for bragging. And he knew there were a lot of things Naruto had to brag about. He's leaving, Dean said with small disappointment, and handed the telescope back to Harry. Does he do this every day? Harry shrugged. Dunno. First time I've seen it too. Man, it's a shame that bloke's in Slytherin. Dean shook his head. Harry wholeheartedly agreed. The blonde almost made him regret not letting the hat put him in Slytherin. Almost. Yeah, he's fun to be around, Harry said, watching the blonde wander back towards the castle. In the evening, Naruto walked towards Hagrid's hut to meet with Professor Kettleburn. When he arrived at the pumpkin patch, he saw Hagrid and the professor were talking in a very hushed tone and with very serious faces. Good evening, Naruto announced himself. Ah, Naruto. Kettleburn put on a fake smile. I guess Miss Farley didn't reach you in time. What for? He asked. Well, it's a nice day. I thought you'd like a day off. The professor clapped him on the shoulder. Now, Naruto was really curious. What's the matter, Professor? He asked bluntly. His tone made it clear that he was not fooled by the simple excuse. Kettleburn sighed. We're going to investigate in the forest. It's dangerous in there. Someone's been killing unicorns. Hagrid quickly chimed in. It's been twice in a fortnight now. Naruto acted surprised. I'll come with you. No, absolutely not. It's dangerous where we are going. Kettleburn's tone was a bit higher. But I go with you every day. And besides, I can call Mr. Gamma if I need help, Naruto argued his case. Kettleburn thought about it for a few seconds. Then he nodded. If Mr. Gamma is with you, alright, but call him first. So Naruto did. Kettleburn, Hagrid, Naruto, Fang and Mr. Gamma headed into the forest to find the killer of unicorns. So what are we looking for? Werewolves? Vampires? Naruto asked, feigning ignorance. No werewolf or vampire is fast enough to catch a unicorn, Hagrid spoke up immediately. He had a crossbow in his hand. Unicorns are peaceful creatures, but they have very powerful magic. Our guess is, it's some dark wizard or witch, Professor told him bluntly. Naruto wondered how the professor would take it if he told him about that ghost cloak skull thing. Couldn't it be some creature instead? He asked. There's nothing in there that could hurt a unicorn, Mr. Uzumaki, Kettleburn told him. So there's an intruder then? Yes, Kettleburn nodded. Suddenly Naruto felt bad about not saying anything about what he saw in the forest. It wasn't some natural order of predator and prey, that cloak thing was some asshole, killing those beautiful creatures for his own gain. There, Professor, Hagrid said, pointing at a spot a few feet to their right. He lifted his lamp higher and silvery liquid shone in the faint light. Naruto and Kettleburn took out their wands and cast a lumos. Kettleburn bent down and inspected the liquid on the ground. Unicorn blood, he declared. It's still fresh. We'll have to find him, Hagrid said. He might still be alive. Yes, we'll split up to cover more ground. Mr. Uzumaki, take Mr. Gamma with you. If you find the unicorn, shoot up green sparks, got it? Yes, sir, Naruto replied and went on ahead. Kettleburn and Hagrid took 2 other paths. Mr. Gamma gave a loud croak when they were good enough distance away. Yes, you can go home now, Mr. Gamma. I can handle it from here, Naruto told the toad, and it dispelled itself. He jumped on a tree for a better vantage point. Naruto began to scan his surroundings for any possible signs of a scumbag. So far he didn't find any. Naruto went in deeper in the forest, closer to the spot where he found the unicorn the first time. Naruto put his hands in a cross-rammed seal. Multi-shadow clone Justu. Another 10 identical versions of himself surrounded him. They all scattered in 10 different directions. He was going to find that thing tonight, no matter what. After all, it was his ignorance that let the incidents go unreported for so long. One clone made its way near a small creek. There was a pack of wolves here but no unicorn. Another clone found foxes. One managed to stumble across a group of pitch-black skeleton-like horses with wings. They looked fascinating, but he didn't have time to stop and admire those horses. Other clones found a myriad of other creatures as well, from hippogriffs and acromantulas to tiny fairies. Each time he was tempted to stop and observe these fantastic beasts, but he had a job to do. He was in the zone, and when he was stealthy, not even these magical creatures knew when he went near them. It was well past midnight when he finally managed to find a trail. One of his clones found hoof prints. The clone followed the trail and managed to locate a lone unicorn drinking water from a small pond. It didn't look injured. Naruto sighed in relief. He hid himself in the branches with a good vantage point. And waited. The unicorn had no appointments by the looks of it. It was lazily grazing on the berries from the bushes around the pond. Which was good. It might have been a little hard to protect the unicorn and catch that prick if the animal was in mood for a run. Half an hour passed in relative silence, then Naruto heard before he saw the movement. His hands flashed through the hand signs before he even turned. Ram boar dog bird hair, lightning style 4-pillar trap. 4 huge pillars of rock erupted around the cloaked figure and trapped it in a net of lighting. The figure was electrocuted and gave out an inhumane screech. The unicorn ran away at the first sign of trouble. The shadow clone dropped down from the tree and approached his jutsu to get a better look at the scumbag. In his mind, Naruto thanked his sensei for teaching him lightning release on top of his primary element. The trap thing was more spirit than a body, with disfigured face that only had skin and no flesh, blood-red eyes and bony hands and fingers. Who the hell are you? Naruto asked, but the figure gave no answer. It just continued to screech because of the lightning. It wasn't even looking at him. A shinobi could have saved himself from electrocution if he had wind or lighting elements, but not something like this. Naruto wondered if whoever this was would die from his jutsu. He didn't look like he was dying, even with all the lightning. Probably because of the unicorn blood. Naruto vaguely remembered reading about healing properties of it. It was clearly in no condition to talk, and Naruto didn't want to risk letting it get away by dropping his jutsu. But if the professor saw his jutsu, it would bring a lot of questions that he knew he wouldn't want to answer. He was walking on thin ice with his fabricated stories already. What to do? Naruto scratched his head, but no answer came. He didn't have any jutsu or spell that could paralyze that thing in an inconspicuous manner. Getting help in this condition was out of question. What to do? What to do? If you had read the book Sensei gave you, this wouldn't have been happening. You could have sealed that thing. A really annoying and unhelpful part of his mind reminded him. Naruto quickly smothered that voice. It wasn't his fault the seals were complicated. But that annoying voice did give him an idea. The clone bit its finger, and his hands flashed through very familiar signs. In a puff of smoke, a green toad appeared in front of him. It had red lipstick and was wearing a very big purple bow. "Hey, Mr. Gamariki," Naruto greeted the toad. I thought Jiraiya Honey had summoned me, but oh well, the flamboyant toad sighed. "Don't look disappointed, you bastard," Naruto screamed in his mind. Yeah, right. I need your help sealing this thing, Mr. Gamariki," Naruto asked in a polite tone. Gamariki had a habit of taking offense where none was in sight, and he was one of the best toads at sealing jutsu, so Naruto was on his best behavior. "What have you gotten yourself into? I was told you were off the grid," Gamariki asked with a flutter of his eyelashes. "It's a long story and I don't have enough time right now. So please, can you help me this time?" Naruto clapped his hands together to emphasize his request. "Oh well, I guess I have to help you. You signed the sacred contract after all." "Thank you very much," relief filled Naruto. While all this was happening, the figure had lost its voice and was just writhing in agony instead of screaming. Mr. Gamariki hopped closer to get a better look. "What is it anyway?" "Some sort of half-human specter, I suppose," Naruto replied. "I can't say for sure." "Is it alive?" "I think so," Naruto replied uncertainly. Mr. Gamariki turned on him. "Did you not learn anything about sealing jutsu, boy?" he asked in a stern tone Naruto would have expected from McGonagall. "I learnt a little bit," Naruto answered shakily, suddenly wary of his own summon. "If it's even part human, then I can't seal it. My knowledge in the sealing arts is not that advanced." Gamariki shook his head. Naruto expected a tongue lashing, but Mr. Gamariki's tone was softer than he expected. "But I still have to immobilize that thing, you know." "You have that part already covered from the looks of it," Gamariki replied. "For pillar trap? It's a good one. Very effective." The toad nodded its appreciation. "Thank you. But I can't let the people see that. They don't know that I'm a ninja and I'd rather keep it that way." "What do you want from me, then?" "I have to hand this guy over to the authorities, since he's not dead yet." "Do you have any other way to trap him?" Naruto asked. "I do have one such technique, but I'll have to stick around for that. Those people will see me." "That's okay," Naruto quickly reassured his summon. "They already met Mr. Gamma, so it's fine. I told them toads are magical and help me out from time to time." Gamariki raised an eyebrow at him. "The explanation to that is another long story, I presume?" Yeah." Naruto scratched the back of his neck. "Very well then." Gamariki made a snake and ox sign and pointed his open palm towards the trapped specter. "Drop your jutsu." Naruto did so. The stone pillars sank back into the ground, and before the figure could fall to the ground, it was trapped in a sphere of water. The water prison jutsu. Naruto almost smacked his forehead for not thinking about it first. Mr. Gamma could have done that, and he wouldn't have to deal with Gamariki's attitude. "I can't hop around with a jutsu in my hand, so we'll have walk," Gamariki told him. "Lead the way." Naruto lit up the tip of his wand and began his journey back to the castle. After 5 minutes of walking at a really slow pace, on Gamariki's order, the toad whispered to get his attention, "It's waking up." Naruto looked over his shoulder. "Yeah, just hold on. It'll take a while to get out of this forest. Even if he wakes up, we'll just have to." Naruto's words died in his mouth as he realized that despite the pretty good shock from his jutsu, the thing wasn't completely incapacitated, and after gaining any semblance of consciousness, it was trying to get away. Naruto watched the thing struggle for a little bit, then all of a sudden, the whole being seemed like it collapsed on itself around its stomach and vanished right in front of their eyes with a very loud pop. "Shit!" Naruto cursed. "What just happened?" Gamariki asked with a tilt of his head. "The bastard escaped." Naruto gritted out. "I'm sorry for troubling you, Mr. Gamariki, but you can go home now." Without even saying goodbye, the toad vanished from the spot and clone dispelled itself. A couple of miles away, the original Naruto got the memories of everything that happened. "A loud fuck," was the original's response. "Thank you for reading." After school. Naruto the Explorer, the first day. Twin troublemakers of Hogwarts, Fred and George roamed the castle after curfew like they owned the place. Using shortcuts behind tapestries and hidden corridors, they made it down to the third corridor without being seen by anyone. They took special care to avoid those pitiful, disgusting and vile creatures that roamed the school's corridors at night, the prefects. Blurg. May the Lord condemn those enemies of all things fun to the deepest. darkest and most boring pits of ministry offices for all their lives. Both brothers prayed. That aside, Dumbledore had said something really fun in his little speech. Something about the most awesome challenge on the 3rd floor or something, translation for non-troublemaker's most gruesome death. Anyway, that's why they were here, walking past the charms corridor and the trophy room and towards the suspicious-looking door. The sound of 3 pairs of footsteps was the only thing audible in the long, empty corridors as 2 handsome, courageous and brilliant brothers made their way to conquer Dumbledore's challenge. Wait, 3 pairs of footsteps. Fred and George looked at each other in alarm. Had they been caught? After 2 amazing years as undisputed kings of fun, was this going to be how they fall? Even wondering things like that, their feet didn't stop. They wouldn't stop, not when there was a challenge in sight and a prank to be pulled. Even if it meant death. Abruptly, they both stopped. And turned around faster than Dumbledore's eyes could twinkle. They pointed their wand at that empty corridor. There was no one there. Both brothers sighed loudly and resumed their march, thinking it was only their imagination. Wearing determination and resolve on their faces, 3 pairs of shoes walked towards the closed door at the end of the hallway. Ricta-semper/locomotor Wibbly. Twin shouts rang in the empty corridors as the twins once again spun around and shot the powerful spells at the evil pursuer. But once again, they hit nothing but air. The villain had managed to escape the wrath of the tickling charm and jelly-leg Jinx. The twins turned around slowly and resumed their original mission, their faces set in grim determination. But internally, worrying thoughts plagued them. Was it Peeves? No, they'd checked already and the poltergeist was in Astronomy Tower. He couldn't have gotten here so quickly. Or stealthily. Filch? The senile fool would have charged at them screaming bloody murder. Besides, there was a distinct lack of meows for it to be Filch. So, it was someone new then. At long last, a challenger had appeared to dethrone them. Or so they hoped. Poor fool. That'd be the last thing he or she'd ever attempt to do before his or her untimely end. Before they get caught and get expelled. Fred and George were immune to such silly nonsense, ever since they had retrieved their trusty map from that ogre's cave. George slowly but carefully reached in his pocket and removed the old parchment. Fred tapped it with his wand and muttered, "I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good." It was said barely louder than a whisper. But they still heard a snort from behind as a response. The twins didn't bother to turn around this time. They'd find out the identity of the villain soon enough. One by one, names appeared on the map of the castle. The brothers quickly found 2 dots with their names. And behind them was a single dot, Naruto Uzumaki, it said. Their faces broke into identical grins. Well, if it ain't the Invisible. They didn't give their pursuer the chance to escape while they were in the middle of an awesome dialogue. They both abruptly turned with pointed their wands. But once again, they saw no one behind them. Looks like a fur's eye got his hands on an invisibility cloak, Fred? George smiled, looking at an empty spot a few feet off the ground. Fred looked down at the map. The dot was behind them now. To the other side. Without a warning, Fred turned around and quickly shot another spell at their challenger, Calvorio. He yelled. What locomotor mortis? George was half a second behind his brother. You're lucky we missed, or otherwise we'd be looking at a slithering bald. George, look at the map. Fred interrupted his brother. Now the Naruto Uzumaki was behind them. Again. In French accent a few minutes later. The brothers were both supporting each other to stand on their feet. They would fire a spell at one side, then look at their map, turn around and fire a spell at this side. It went on for a little while. In the end, they were left huffing and barely able to stand. Then, George looked at the map. The vile name of Naruto Uzumaki was nowhere near them. His face broke into a wide grin. His brother saw the map and donned an identical expression on his face. Their enemy had given up and ran away from the battle, the twins decided. They both raised their wands at the empty corridor. Yeah, you better run, they yelled in unison. Chapter 3, Face to Face. It was morning when Naruto finally emerged from the forest. There were people already waiting for him here. Headmaster Dumbledore had been called and he was standing with Kettleburn and Snape. All 3 of them looked worried. Good morning, Naruto greeted them as he approached. Where in Merlin's name were you? Kettleburn demanded in a stern tone. We already checked the forest once and were about to head in again. I found something, Naruto interrupted before the professor could say anything else. He wasn't even slightest bit bothered by the professor's angry/concerned words. It's something weird, he added. What did you see, Mr. Uzumaki? Professor Dumbledore asked in a much calmer voice than Kettleburn. Isn't it really sure? What are dark wizards? He asked first instead of giving them the answer. Old Man Kettleburn had told him last night that they were looking for a dark wizard or witch. He wanted to make sure exactly what it was that he saw. The adults were thrown for a bit of a loop by his question. Snape and Kettleburn looked at each other hoping the other would answer. But they were saved the trouble by Dumbledore. They are wizards who practice dark magic, which is primarily focused on hurting others. And how do they look? Naruto asked. Dumbledore gave him a curious look. Even if they are dark wizard, they look the same as any other wizard. Naruto pursed his lips for a second and then told them about his encounter with that thing he saw last night. He described it in detail, but left out the part where he trapped the creature in his 4-pillar trap. So what do you think it was? Was it really a dark wizard, or did I just discover a new species of magical creatures? Naruto saw the headmaster and Greasy Guy exchange a look. I still can't picture what you described, Kettleburn said with a shake of his head. Naruto looked at the others and they seemed to be in the same boat. He immediately pulled an empty scroll from his pocket. I can draw a picture for you. The headmaster conjured a desk and a chair for him. It took him less than 5 minutes to draw a rough sketch of the intruder. He made sure to draw all the recognizable details, the red animal-like eyes, the fleshless skull, bony fingers and most of the body hidden by a cloak. When he finished the drawing, he paid close attention to the headmaster and the Greasy Guy. To his credit, the headmaster's face gave nothing away, but Greasy Guy's eyes noticeably widened. That's, the potion's master began, but the headmaster cut him off. Yes, I fear so too. His voice was quite. But how's this possible? The Greasy Guy exclaimed in frustration. You've known for quite a while, Severus, that Lord Voldemort was never truly gone. Naruto saw Kettleburn visibly flinch. This Voldemort you speak of, is it the same one that killed Four Eyes' parents? Don't say his name, Kettleburn warned him. Naruto looked at the old man in confusion. Dumbledore chuckled. Relax, Sylvanus. Fear of the name increases the fear of the thing itself. Mr. Uzumaki is a wise young man to realize that, the headmaster praised. More like he doesn't know any better, the Greasy Guy muttered. Fear? Wise? What the hell were these geezers talking about? Now Naruto was thrown for a loop. He didn't know saying someone's name was such a big deal. And given his habit of forgetting names, was he really wise? Was it? Naruto asked again. Yes, I'm afraid so, the headmaster said. You said he collapsed on himself and vanished with a pop? Kettleburn asked Naruto. Yes, sir. Kettleburn sighed. You must have found him well outside of school grounds then, for him to be able to apparate. I tried to track him afterwards, Professor. Naruto began to explain that he didn't slack off in his job. But he was nowhere to be found. I even set up a trap near a herd of unicorns. All three adults just looked at him for a couple of seconds. Sometimes I don't know what to make of you, Kettleburn shook his head. Laid a trap for you-know-who, he muttered, making the headmaster chuckle. It's all right, Mr. Uzumaki. When he vanished, Lord Voldemort could have been to the other side of the country for all we know. You must not blame yourself. Kettleburn was outraged. Must not blame yourself, Albus? The boy went after the Dark Lord himself. Professor! Naruto interrupted the old man again. It wasn't like he was very strong. Or fast for that matter. You should have seen him, he barely looked anything human. I mistook him for a creature, for fuck's sake. I don't think he could have hurt anyone even if he wanted to. Naruto shook his head. I think he was barely clinging to his life. Barely but stubbornly. Dumbledore provided. Kettleburn sighed. Blood of unicorn can do that. It'll tether one's life to the mortal world even if it's at a great cost. He must be really desperate to resort to that. What do you mean, Professor? Unicorn blood saves your life, even if you are standing at death's door, but the rest of your life will be cursed. For you have selfishly slain something so pure. That's why he didn't die from lightning. The blood of unicorn must still be in effect. Naruto muttered under his breath. His guess was confirmed. What was that? The Greasy Guy looked at him suspiciously. I was wondering if there's any way to track this apparate thing? Naruto asked without missing a beat. Alas, there isn't. Apparition is a magical mode of transport that cannot be traced. It was the headmaster who answered. I think he'll be back, Naruto thought out loud. Beg your pardon? The Greasy Guy leaned towards him. Naruto met his gaze. Like I already told you, Professor, he looked really weak. If he needs unicorn blood to survive, then unless there is another herd of unicorns somewhere else, I think he will come back. This was Naruto's area of expertise, thinking like the one you're hunting. Be it an enemy ninja or a dark wizard, if you know their motive, it's easy to predict their next move. His sensei had drilled it in his head after all. On the battlefield he had a habit of jumping in headfirst, but that didn't mean he left his brain behind to do so. This is the only place in Britain where unicorns live. Kettleburn shared his knowledge with others. That's good, we can lay a trap for him then. He surprised me last night when he escaped, but I'm sure we can get him next time. Dumbledore chuckled at his enthusiasm. Relax, Mr. Uzumaki, you have already done more than enough. We shall handle it from here. But sir, I know I can help. My toads are first-class trackers and they are wickedly fast as well. If we can stop him from using that appray thing, then he's done for. He's right, Albus. Kettleburn backed him up. Even if I loathe the idea of putting a child in danger, his toads have found you-know-who once already. And if we can get him when he's weak, it'll save us so much trouble. Dumbledore gave him a calculating look. That may be so, but we cannot have Mr. Uzumaki ignore his education to pursue dark wizards. He's too young for this kind of thing. I won't ignore my studies, Professor. Naruto ignored the latter half of Dumbledore's sentence. He really wanted to catch this guy. The fact that the dark wizard slipped away from his fingers did not sit well with him. He felt like he had failed 4 eyes somehow. There aren't many classes in one day, I have loads of free time on my hand. And I'm already used to working at nights. A few hours of patrol every night won't affect my performance in class, I promise. Be that as it may, young man, but this is a very powerful dark wizard we are talking about here. We cannot, in good conscience, let you go after him. Dumbledore told him, even in his weakened state, Lord Voldemort remains one of the most powerful wizards in history. But... No buts, Mr. Uzumaki. This isn't a child's play. You should focus on your studies and let us handle the situation from here. You have done wonderfully so far. Dumbledore's words had a tone of finality to them. Frankly, Naruto didn't blame the old man for not listening to him. From their perspective, he was just a 12-year-old kid. He debated if he should show them some of his jutsu to make his case, but realized that there was no need. He could just slip out of the castle at night on his own. If he caught the bastard, they'll let his rule-breaking slide, and if he didn't, well then no one has to know he left the castle at all, now did they? Yes, Professor, I understand. Have a good day. Naruto bowed to his teachers and headed towards the castle. It's a good thing Hagrid retrieved the stone when he did, won't you say, Severus? Dumbledore said once both Kettleburn and Naruto were out of earshot. It feels like everything is happening so fast, Professor. The fact that Potter started attending school this year cannot be a mere coincidence. The Dark Lord will surely try to hurt the boy if he gets the chance. Dumbledore smiled. That's big if, Severus. But I don't think Harry is in any immediate danger, certainly not when Lily continues to protect her son even from beyond the grave. But still, keep an eye out for him, won't you? Yes, Professor. Snape replied through gritted teeth. Harry was sitting at a lone table in the library furiously going through a large tome titled Intermediate Charms. Besides that, there were several other books lying open in front of him. Most of them were charms books and a couple of them were even defense against dark arts books. He had been at them for quite a while now. The morning after he made that bet against Naruto, Harry had woken up at an ungodly hour and headed for the library, determined to find the spell that let the blonde stand on water. He didn't find anything even remotely close on the first day, so he returned the day after that. And the one after that. It had been a month since he had been scouring the charms section, but he still wasn't any closer to his goal than he was on his first day. But still, he was there every day for at least an hour or so before the classes began. It had become his routine now. Also, he had noticed something about himself. After Naruto had pointed out, his mind did have a tendency to wander. When he was searching for Naruto's spell, he came across many other interesting ones. And he couldn't help but make a note of them in his notebook to practice later at his leisure. It was safe to say he was very deep in the rabbit hole that was charms, with one spell making him curious by mentioning another similar one, then he'd go check that out only to find a small mention of another interesting spell. It was a cycle. First he thought that Naruto had used an ice jinx, and stood on a block of ice that was just under the water surface. It was in their first year syllabus after all. But Blonde had told him that wasn't the case. Still, the ice jinx led him to Blue Flame's charm, Levitation charm led to Hovering charm, and so on. He was led by the spells like a horse by a carrot. It wasted his time when he was looking for a specific spell, but he didn't really mind it. Harry loved magic. This was how Hermione and her friends Lily and Sophie found him, his nose buried in a book and writing notes in his notebook. Lily tapped him on his shoulder to get his attention. You might want to pack your books or you'll be late for potions," she told him. That was the last thing Harry wanted, to give Snape an excuse to be mean to him and take away points. Not that the potions master ever needed any excuse. "Oh, thank you for reminding me," Harry said to Lily as he packed his belongings. The four of them walked out of the library together. Even after a month, Harry only knew these girls by their names. He'd never actually spoken to any of them before. From what he knew, all three were Muggleborns and had formed an early friendship because of their common backgrounds when they arrived at Hogwarts. "What were you reading?" Hermione asked him. "Oh, I was just looking up some charms," Harry answered. "For the essay?" "No, I finished that last night. It was something else, sort of like a side project." Sophie smiled at him. "My, how diligent. You know, Hermione is quite jealous of you." "No, I'm not." "God, Sophie." Hermione made to grab Sophie to stop her from saying anything else, but the redhead dodged her and used both Harry and Lily as human shields. "Ah, Granger, did your parents not teach you that lying is wrong?" Even Lily joined in. Harry watched the playful teasing of friends with a smile. "Why is she jealous?" he asked. "I'm not, Harry. She's clearly lying." Hermione tried to defend herself, but the blush on her face gave her away. "Not only you," Sophie continued undeterred. "You remember our first practical lesson of Transfiguration? She was also jealous of that boy from Slytherin. But we heard that he cheated." "He didn't. Naruto really succeeded on his first attempt." Harry was quick to defend his friend. The girl blinked at him for a second but shook her head. "Anyway, we heard he cheated," she corrected herself. So Hermione didn't really mind it. But in the next lecture you turned the match into a perfect needle, while Hermione's was still a little rough. And same thing happened when transfiguring the mice into snuffboxes. Her snuffbox had very cute rodent ears. Harry chuckled. "That's it? I was expecting something a bit more when you told me she's jealous." Hermione was making a point to ignore her traitor of a friend as they talked. She stuck close to Lily, who hadn't betrayed her to a boy. "Ah, but you see, our little Hermione here fancies herself the best student of our year. Turns out you are the best at Transfiguration and not her." Harry shrugged. "If it makes you feel any better, Hermione, I had help." He addressed the girl for the first time. "And it was easier since we had a spell to work with this time." Sophie scoffed. "The professor's teaching you privately then, Potter?" "Not professor, Naruto gave me some helpful advice." "That blonde Slytherin boy?" Lily asked. "But you were the first one to turn the mouse into a snuffbox," Hermione said. Confusion was written all over her face. "And it was a pretty one too. Professor McGonagall showed the whole class," Lily added. Harry laughed at the memory that came with their words. "That's because he accidentally fell asleep during the class. I have no idea how Professor McGonagall didn't notice." Their chatter died down as they entered the potions classroom. Slytherins were all already there, Harry noticed. Naruto was at his workstation, alone. The girl he used to work with hadn't sat with him since Naruto pulled that prank a month ago. She was the type to hold a grudge, Harry assumed. "Hey," Harry said to get his attention as he joined Naruto. "Stay after the class, I have something important to tell you." Harry was a bit taken aback by how serious he sounded. "All right, but what's it about?" "Voldemort," Naruto answered, subtle as a wrecking ball. Harry's eyes widened a fraction. Before he could ask anything else, Snape snooped in the classroom like an agitated bat. The potions master waved his wand and the complicated instructions for Wiggenweld potion appeared on the blackboard. "Today we shall brew the Wiggenweld potion," Snape began in his usually drawling tone. "It replenishes stamina, boosts strength, heals injuries and cures the effects of sleeping draught and draught of living death. Despite its usefulness, it's a very simple potion, but for your simple minds it'll the most difficult concoction you will brew this year," he said, the last part looking at Gryffindors. "Do try and make as few errors as possible, that's the most I can ask of you dunderheads." Harry barely registered Snape's usual insults. His mind was still trying to process the name drop. What did Naruto know? What did he want to talk about? "I'll go get the ingredients, put the water to boil in the meantime," Naruto told him and left for the cupboards. When Naruto got back with his hands full of potion ingredients, Dittany, moly, unicorn horn, stewed mandrake, Wiggenweld tree bark and a dozen others, Harry was still standing there, his mind running 1,000 thoughts a second. Naruto put all the ingredients on the table. He was a little confused as to why Harry hadn't started the fire. He slapped Harry lightly on his cheek, but it was enough to leave a bit of a sting. "Focus," Naruto said simply. I think it was a bad idea to tell you anything before the class began. We can't afford to get this potion wrong. Harry forced himself out of his thoughts. Whatever it was, he would have to wait just until lunchtime to know. He didn't spend the last month learning to concentrate, just to get shaken by that murderer's name. You're right, Harry said. Why did you get live salamanders? He asked when he noticed that Naruto had brought the animals themselves instead of their blood, unlike everyone else. Fresher the blood, better the result, the instructions said. Naruto told him, and together they began to brew their potion. In a cauldron full of boiling mineral water, crushed wiggenweld tree bark was added. That was the base of wiggenweld potion. Naruto was making precise cuts at the neck of salamanders and draining the blood with absolute precision, and without showing anything other than dutiful obedience of instructions. He didn't show disgust or hesitation at having to kill the salamanders. Harry wondered if he had practice. There were 17 ingredients in total, and they were supposed to add a few drops of blood with every ingredient, and switching between clockwise and anti-clockwise stirring after each step. The potion itself was an interesting one. It changed color after each successful step, from red to green to blue to yellow to purple and so on. Wrong color after a step meant you got that particular step wrong. Get one step wrong and the whole potion is botched. It was fun, in an anxiety-inducing kind of way. Harry was in charge of stirring and adding the precise drops of blood while Naruto handled the rest of the ingredients. By the end of the class, their potion was the perfect turquoise color as was required. A couple of tables away, a pair of Slytherin girls were standing on their toes to get a peek at Naruto and Harry's cauldron. Merlin, it's the perfect shade. Sally frowned. Then she looked at her own potion. It was a shade lighter than what was required. Must be the fresh salamander blood, Daphne replied with a frown of her own. I don't mind the result then, not if I have to kill those poor salamanders, Sally made a face. Daphne raised a blonde eyebrow at her friend. Where do you think this blood came from? By myself, I mean, Sally cleared. I don't want to kill those salamanders by my own hands, that's just disgusting. By the way, why didn't you go brew with him? You'd have gotten better result than with me. Daphne shook her head. Not until the prat apologizes, she said firmly. Sally sighed as she slung her bag over her shoulders. So, never then? Sally knew Naruto would have apologized by now if he was even slightest bit sorry. Daphne just shook her head. He doesn't seem to miss you though. Sally looked over where Naruto was labeling the files. He brewed alone until today, and now he got Potter to join him. Naruto passed them without even sparing a glance. He put his file in front of Snape, but instead of leaving, he just stood there. Do you need something, Mr. Uzumaki? Snape asked in a slightly annoyed voice. Is my potion acceptable, sir? Naruto asked. Snape glanced at his potion. It is the right color, yes. The words seemed to pain him somehow. I was in the forest last night, as you know. It didn't affect my work. Still, you won't be allowed in the forest. I do not have the authority to overturn the headmaster's decision. Snape said in a dismissive tone. Even if the boy was in his house, it didn't mean he was willing to hear pointless argument. Especially about the situation at hand. Take my advice and stay away from the forest, if you value your life, that is. His voice made it clear that he wanted to discuss it no further. Naruto looked like he was about to argue but deflated. I understand. Thank you, sir, he said and left the dungeons. Harry was waiting for him outside. Naruto, what's going on? Harry tried to keep the uneasiness from showing, but his voice betrayed him. Come with me, Naruto said, and Harry jogged to keep pace. They found an empty classroom on the second floor. Harry entered after Naruto and closed the door, guessing the need for privacy. Okay, you're freaking me out right now, Harry said. Naruto's expression was undecipherable. Voldemort was in the Forbidden Forest last night, he told Harry without any preamble. Harry was rendered speechless. He didn't know how to process that information. You told me he killed your parents, right? Harry managed a terse nod, unable to keep away the anger that came with the words he was hearing. I thought you'd want to know. I only have rumors and some common knowledge to go on, so I don't know exactly what happened 10 years ago, but somehow this Voldemort dude is more spirit than a man now. And desperate besides, Naruto told him. How? How do you know this? Naruto sat down on a bench and patted the seat next to him. Someone's been killing unicorns in the forest, so old man Kettleburn, Hagrid and I went to investigate. Here Naruto paused and scratched the back of his neck. Actually, I saw someone kill a unicorn a month ago when I went for a stroll in the forest. Harry didn't know whether to be impressed or be worried his friend's recklessness. Why didn't you say something then? Like I said, that guy is more spirit than anything human. I thought it was just some creature that hunted unicorns, that's how disfigured he was. Naruto shrugged. But why is he hunting unicorns? Unicorn blood keeps the drinker alive, but at a terrible cost. I don't know what that cost is exactly, but it sounds pretty bad by how everyone was talking about it. Here Naruto paused and looked at Harry for a moment. Can I ask you a question? It's a bit personal. Harry nodded. Do you know why that guy killed your parents? Harry thought about it for a moment. Hagrid said that this Voldemort went as dark as one could go. And there was a war. My parents fought against him, so he went after them. Naruto scratched his chin in thought. I've heard that you were responsible for his destruction last time? I don't know about that. I was 1-year-old baby. I don't know what happened that day. Harry's mood was getting worse the longer they talked about it. So Naruto clapped his hand on his shoulder in show of sympathy. Either way, I think if he was as bad as you're saying, then he might be holding a grudge. What are you saying? I'm saying he might come for you. Again, Harry had nothing to say in response. He knew Naruto was right, of course, but knowing the man responsible for making you an orphan was coming after you was a heavy thought. Be careful, okay? Naruto said after a pause. Don't wander around by yourself if you can avoid it. That Voldemort might be weakened, but he still has his magic. Harry nodded. Don't worry, I'm not an idiot. And shouldn't you be telling this stuff to Dumbledore? The way Hagrid was talking about the headmaster, Harry thought Dumbledore wouldn't let anything come close to him. Not in the castle, at least. Safest place in the world, Hagrid had said. He was the first person I told this morning. I asked to go back to lay some traps for the bastard, but the teachers denied me permission, said it would get in the way of my studies. His tone made it clear what he thought of that particular notion. Is that why you told me we couldn't afford to get the potion wrong today? To show them wandering around at night doesn't affect you? Naruto nodded. I would have liked to have permission, but looks like I'll just have to sneak out of the castle. Actually, Naruto just asked the professors to give the sense that he wouldn't leave the castle without permission. If they thought him as an obedient student, it was less likely that they would suspect him of sneaking off on his own. No, absolutely not. The forest is too dangerous even without a killer on the loose. For the first time in his life, Harry had made friends, and he was determined not to lose them, even if he had to save them from their own recklessness. Relax, there's nothing in that forest that can hurt me, Naruto said. I almost caught the bastard last night. Harry's eyes widened in surprise. Why, you did? Well, it was Mr. Gamariki that trapped him, but yes. Who's Mr. Gamariki? He's one of my toads. I'll introduce you someday. Harry looked at him. You're going to go in the forest no matter what, aren't you? He saw the determination in Naruto's eyes. The blonde nodded. I'm coming with you then. Naruto hummed. I thought you might want to confront the guy who killed your parents. Harry looked at Naruto. Was that approval in his eyes? When are we leaving then? There's no guarantee that he will return tonight, Naruto said. He was injured pretty badly yesterday, but then again there's no guarantee that he won't return either. When are we leaving then? Harry asked again, impatient at this point. There's no point in wandering the forest all night unless he's there. You'll just be staying up for no good reason. But I'm not denying you, Naruto interrupted Harry's protest. You can stay in your dorm. I'll call you when I find our intruder. Harry was confused. I don't understand. Naruto reached in his bag and pulled out a scroll and a brush. I have a method of transporting you directly from your dorm room to wherever I am, he said. Harry watched Naruto draw a circle made up of intricate symbols. From the center of the circle, 6 radial lines made up of similar-looking letters were drawn. In the center, there was a single large character. He had no idea what those symbols meant. He'd never seen anything like that before. It all looked so foreign to him. When Naruto was done, the patterns looked weirdly intriguing, enchanting even. Then Naruto began making the hand signs. His hands moved so fast, all Harry saw was blurs. Naruto put his hand under the scroll and the ink glowed blue for a second. At this point, Harry had no idea what was happening anymore. Give me your hand, Naruto said. Harry saw there was suddenly a weird-looking knife in his hand. He reluctantly extended his left hand. Naruto nicked his thumb with the knife and blood flowed. Harry managed not to wince or make a face. He was proud of that. Naruto let a few drops fall in the center of the circle and then put his own hand once again on the scroll. And once again the ink glowed blue. All right, it's done, Naruto said as he pocketed the scroll. What's done? Oh right, that was a summoning scroll. Now I can teleport you near me anytime I want, Naruto explained. Where did you learn that? And more importantly, when can you teach me? Naruto chuckled, someday. It's surely complicated technique. And delicate besides. No point telling him he can't learn, but still, no use dousing his curiosity either, Naruto thought. Harry looked like he had more questions, but he sensed Naruto's hesitation, so decided to let it go for now. Alright. So I just stay in my dorm and you'll summon me if you find him? That's the plan, Naruto nodded. I figured you'd have some questions at least. Lord knew Naruto would have a thing or two to say if he was in Harry's position. After classes that day, Naruto went to the library and combed through the shelves for books on magical methods of transport. He found a huge tome that promised to be useful. If he wanted to catch that bastard, he'd have to prevent him from escaping like last time. He wondered if there was any way of stopping someone from teleporting, or operating as they called it. The book mentioned many methods of magical transport: simple brooms, the night bus, Flynn network, port keys, and after that was mentioned the method Naruto was looking for, apparition. The book mentioned no way of tracking the destination, but it did mention a charm that prevented someone from operating in or disapparating from an area. Naruto noted down the incantation, Taumataphora Periorismos, and the complicated wand movement. The book said it was a Newt-level spell, whatever the hell that meant. He arrived back in the common room just before curfew. He had already sent a few clones on patrol, to keep an eye on the intruder in case he comes back and gather some information on him. Even if he couldn't catch the guy just yet, at least he'd be able to stop him from killing the unicorns. It was already Halloween when Naruto realized that maybe he should have paid attention to what Newt level actually meant. The theory behind the spell was complicated to say the least. It had taken him embarrassingly long time to understand the spell in its entirety. Seriously, people shouldn't use so many long and complicated words in one paragraph. The jerk who wrote the book probably thought it would make sound extra smart. Would it have killed him to explain it in human terms? In other words, he was having trouble with the spell, mostly with understanding the theory. On top of that, he had no way of testing out if he had successfully cast the spell. How could he? He didn't know how to apparate. Without a test, he was just shooting in the dark. But that was fine. Even if he had botched the spell, he had found some alternative spells to immobilize a target. No longer would he have to rely on his lightning jutsu. No answering awkward questions for this guy. Then I found the snitch, but Wood said I also have to disrupt the chasers too. And let me tell you, it's not as easy as it sounds. I almost slammed into Katie more than once. Almost took a bludger to the head too. Harry was describing his latest training session to his friend. He had been recruited to the Gryffindor Quidditch team after tryouts, which were compulsory for everyone in their house by the order of their captain. Even first years were given permission to join with some string pulling from old McGonagall. They were both coming from the last lecture of the day, being let off early since it was Halloween, and all the staff was busy decorating the castle with pumpkins, skeletons, and other spooky things. I don't know, dude, it sounds way too easy, Naruto replied carelessly to what Harry thought was a very impressive story of his latest exploits on the Quidditch field. Sour grapes? Harry teased. No need to be jealous, you know. You can always try for Slytherin team next year. Please, if I played that stupid game the match would be over like this. Naruto snapped his fingers. Harry smirked. Really? Why don't we have a little one-on-one competition then? Let's see if you can back up your big words. Naruto stopped walking. Shut up. Already backing out? Honestly, I didn't expect. For eyes, shut up for a moment, will you? At those words, Harry looked at Naruto. Gone was the aloof, playful expression he had a minute ago. Naruto looked tense, like he was expecting someone to jump out of the shadows and attack him. Listen, Naruto said, and Harry perked up his ears. I don't hear anything, Harry whispered. Naruto pressed his ear to the wall and closed his eyes. After a few seconds, Naruto abruptly ran towards the classroom down the hall. Harry ran after him. Naruto stopped in front of a classroom and pressed his ear to the door. Harry did the same. His eyes widened when he heard muffled screams of a man. There was another voice. Harry couldn't make out any words, but the tones sounded threatening. Naruto tapped him on his shoulder. Wands out, he whispered, and took a couple of steps back. Harry had his wand in his hand the next second, and he took a couple of steps away from the door. Naruto took a calming breath and kicked the door hard. The door stood no chance as it was blasted off the hinges. Both of them rushed inside the classroom. You! Naruto said as soon as he saw the hovering thing. The hovering thing wasn't pleased to see him, however, and growled as soon as it saw him and Harry. Avada Kedavra! The thing fired a green spell at Harry, but Naruto pushed him out of the way. Avada Kedavra! Came another shout, but Naruto moved both of them out of way of the green spell. The skull thing was relentless as it kept firing the same spell over and over. None hit the target, however. Naruto was a little bit faster to move them out of the way every time. Harry didn't know what the hell was going on at this point. The cloak thing just kept attacking them, and Professor Quirrell was on the floor whimpering in pain. Harry Potter, the boy who lived, the thing stopped firing spells at them for a second to speak to Harry. Probably got tired of not hitting the target. Still, he had an ugly smile on his face. It's a pleasure to meet you after such a long time. At those words, Harry realized exactly who this creepy person was. The description he heard from Naruto came to mind. Harry's fear gave way to anger, and he said, "Voldemort, the wanker who didn't die. Can't say it's a pleasure to see your ugly face so soon." Naruto was impressed. That was a good one. Voldemort grit his teeth at the cheek. "So you know who I am? I'm surprised the old fool Dumbledore told you about me." "Fool are you, to walk in Hogwarts when Dumbledore is still here?" Harry replied and pointed his wand at the dark wizard. "And in your condition no less. I'd be checking in a hospital if I were you." Naruto almost laughed out at this point. He was already slowly moving them both towards the door to block the most obvious exit route. There was an open window, but Naruto was already preparing his next move to block that one too. His one hand was subtly making hand signs for one of his most dangerous techniques, while at the same time the anti-apparition spell was at the tip of his tongue, just in case. Harry's words were doing a good job of frustrating Voldemort, and it showed in his next words. "Such courage and defiance in the face of death, truly a Gryffindor you are, as expected of a child of James and Lily. It's a shame they both died so young." That was a cheap blow. Bloody wanker. As expected, Harry's face turned red in anger after hearing that, but still Voldemort kept taunting him. "Don't look so sad, child. I can tell you your parents died a quick death. Your father at least. Your mother, however, kept begging me for mercy." Voldemort sported a nasty smile, having successfully managed to rile up an 11-year-old boy. Harry was gripping his wand so hard, his knuckles were white. Naruto feared Harry might do something stupid like lunging at Voldemort, which was clearly the intention of the Dark Wizard. So Naruto fired a spell at him, which was blocked almost lazily. "You didn't forget about me, did you? I should be insulted," he asked with a smile. Voldemort looked at him, clearly trying to jog his memory. So Naruto decided to help him. "I'm the one who electrocuted you, remember? When you were preying on that poor unicorn?" Realization dawned on Voldemort's face, which was quickly replaced by anger at the reminder of his humiliation. "Wow, I'm surprised you didn't see my face that night. I was pretty sure you did. But then again, you were very busy getting electrocuted, so I don't blame you." Naruto taunted Voldemort. His jutsu was ready, just one more sign and Voldemort was trapped. To his credit, Voldemort composed himself. "Ah yes, how can I forget? Such skill you showed that night to almost capture Lord Voldemort of all people. Tell me, child, what is your name?" Naruto snorted at the poor attempt at manipulation. "Man, you must really be desperate, huh? 2 first-year kids are standing before you and you are resorting to mind games. What, can't hit a moving target anymore? Did 4 Eyes really fuck you up that badly all those years ago?" It must have taken every ounce of Voldemort's self-control to not rise to the bait. "This is where you are mistaken, child. For I can kill you too any time I wish. But that would be such a waste, don't you think? One uses such unique magic and the other managed to survive a killing curse." Voldemort turned his attention towards Harry. "Have you never wondered, how did a 1-year-old babe manage to do that?" Naruto's preparation were already complete. Voldemort didn't know it, but he was already trapped. So Naruto decided to humor him for a little while by listening to a desperate man ramble on. "For you see, Harry, only someone with tremendous amount of darkness in him could have achieved such a feat." Harry grit his teeth, his anger once again rising. "You don't know what you are talking about." "Oh, but I do. Surely you have heard that Lord Voldemort delved the deepest in secrets of dark magic? I know it like the back of my hand. And when I look at you, I see great potential. Potential to be the next great Dark Lord. Join me, Harry, I can give you all this world has to offer, strength, wealth, knowledge, everything." "Stupefy," was Harry's response. "I'll never join the likes of you." "Foolish child," Voldemort said as he lazily parried away the stunning charm. Harry was about to fire another spell, but Naruto's voice stopped him. "That's enough, 4 Eyes. Thank you for distracting him from me," Naruto said as he snatched the wand out of Voldemort's skeletal hand like it was nothing. The speed at which he moved, neither Voldemort nor Harry saw what happened. 1 second Voldemort had his wand and then he didn't. Tau Metaphora Periorismos, Naruto cast the spell. No! Came the scream from the down professor as he lunged towards Naruto, attempting to take back the wand for his master. Naruto kicked the defense professor in the nuts and down he went, crying in incredible pain and clutching his destroyed balls. Naruto quickly jabbed his pressure point and the defense professor fell unconscious. Naruto was confused for a moment, but soon he understood the situation. One of your men? He asked. Voldemort, seeing as he was at a complete disadvantage, made for the open the window. But suddenly pinkish red flesh covered the exit and spread to every wall, floor and even ceiling of the classroom. You are not going anywhere, Naruto said as he snapped the wand he took from Voldemort. You are in the stomach of the great fire toad of Mount Myaboku. A man is yet to be born that can break out of here. In a few hours you'll be digested and become toad poop on the side of road somewhere, he said as he put the nastiest grin he could muster. Voldemort tried to apparate out of there, just to fail painfully. Relax, there's nothing you can do. I already cast the anti-apparition spell, remember? That's bloody brilliant, Harry said from the side, his eyes wide as saucers. Voldemort laughed maniacally. You think a simple spell like this can stop me? He turned towards the wall and began to transfigure the flesh of the toad to create a door. Naruto's eyes widened. Shit. That was the flaw in his otherwise brilliant plan. Wandless magic. And apparently the flesh of the great fire toad wasn't immune to magic. But thankfully it wasn't exactly easy to transfigure either, since it was doing pretty good job of holding against the magic, with just a vague outline of a door visible. Incendio, Naruto cast the fire spell and the dark wizard was lit up like a torch. But only for a brief second. The fire died down as Voldemort muttered a counterspell. Stupefy, Harry didn't let him rest as his spell hit the spectre dead in the chest. Voldemort stopped moving for a second but was soon free of the effect of the spell. He was moving closer to the two boys. Petrificus totalis. Incendio. Stupefy. They both kept firing the spells with little effect. Voldemort was able to nullify the effects of the spells of 2 first years without a wand and without any difficulty. Voldemort would fire some of the nastiest curses in Arsenal, but Naruto was fast enough that neither him nor Harry got hit even once. Even without a wand, Voldemort was dangerous. Naruto was hesitant to engage in close combat since he didn't want to fall prey to some nasty protective curse that would activate at touch. His knowledge in magical arts was very limited after all. He didn't want to risk it. So he kept firing spell after spell from a distance. And thus the two sides were at a stalemate. And it didn't look like it was about to break any time soon. Furthermore, if he waited for Voldemort to be digested, both he and Four Eyes would be digested with him. He would have to get out of the stomach but also make sure Voldemort couldn't just transfigure his way out. The second he took to think proved costly, as Voldemort cast the area effect paralysis spell. Both young wizards were frozen in place and Naruto's eyes widened comically in alarm as he saw Voldemort lunge at Harry. When he got close to the boy, Voldemort looked him dead in the eye. Alas, I can't use the killing curse without a wand, but no matter, that just means you'll have to die a more painful death, young Potter, he said as he started muttering a curse. Harry felt like his whole body was on fire. His screams filled the stomach of the toad. Naruto had no plans to watch an innocent kid die in front of him, however. He closed his eyes and a huge amount of chakra began to fill his body until he glowed blue. The effect of whatever spell he was under was vanishing by the second. Voldemort was alerted by the pressure, and he stopped muttering the curse to look at Naruto, whose cold blue eyes were glaring murder at him. Knowing he had no time to waste, Voldemort resorted to crudest and most basic method of murder. He wrapped his skeletal hands around Harry's neck as began to choke the life out of him. Naruto flexed even more of his chakra in an effort to break free of the spell, but it was slow going. A second later, Voldemort's screams reached his ears. Huh? How did that happen? Naruto watched as Voldemort's hands began to burn away as the Dark Lord was forced to let go of Harry. Voldemort backed away from the young wizard, screaming in mortal agony and fear in his snake-like red eyes. The effect of the spell on both Harry and Naruto vanished. Don't let him get away, Four Eyes! Naruto yelled and Harry lunged, grabbing Voldemort by the face. Voldemort tried to shake him off to no avail. While being burnt and in unimaginable pain, he couldn't cast any spell from his prodigious arsenal. Harry had a firm grab of him as more and more of Voldemort was burning away. Harry did not let go until every last part of Voldemort had burnt and turned to ash, even his robes. Only then did Harry let himself slump on the floor, made of flesh. His breathing was heavy, his clothes drenched in sweat, and his whole body felt hot, like he was in an oven or something. The ordeal had taken a lot out of him, and Harry was finding it hard to keep his eyes open. He thought he heard Naruto call his name, but the allure of sleep felt much too great to refuse. So he closed his eyes and let himself fall face first on the fleshy floor. Naruto knelt beside the young wizard. "I'm so glad I didn't touch that Voldemort," he said. He had been shocked way too many times by lightning-style shadow clones to ever make physical contact with anything suspicious. That being said, he was wary of touching Harry too. He had no plans of being turned to ash anytime soon. So Naruto created a shadow clone. The clone touched Harry's forehead. The clone didn't burn away. That was a relief. Harry had some sort of protective spell on him, that much was clear to him. Maybe it only activates if you had bad intentions? Or maybe it activates only when some specific people interact with him? Like a certain murderer with a grudge against him? In any case, Naruto realized that he hadn't even scratched the surface Pandora's box that was magic. Until he learns more about how wizard and dark wizards fight, he was going to be careful about making physical contact with shady people. That was for later. Right now he had to get Harry to a medic. While the protective spell didn't activate for him, his clone still felt very high fever on Harry. The clone lifted Harry and dashed out of the classroom, Naruto having already released the trapping jutsu. With Harry on his way to the hospital wing, Naruto turned his attention to the unconscious professor. What is the deal with this guy? He had clearly heard screams from this guy, so he was pretty sure he was being attacked by Voldemort. Then why did he jump at me? Mind control? Most likely. But he wasn't 100% sure. The professor looked genuinely angry and scared. What the hell, let the authorities deal with it. In the meantime. Petrificus totalis. That ought to keep the man there until the professors arrive. His clone had dispelled itself. Harry was under the care of Madame Pomfrey. Now to alert the staff. Naruto locked the door of the classroom behind him and ran down the hallways to find a teacher. It was close to evening, so everyone was probably in the Great Hall, so that's where Naruto headed. He ran as fast as a civilian his age would be capable of and arrived in the Great Hall a few minutes later. As expected, the Great Hall was half full with students and a few teachers were busy with completing the decorations. He spotted the tiny charms professor hanging skeletons from the ceiling. McGonagall was helping him. And Greasy Guy was enchanting the suits of armor to spout threats to anyone who passes by. Naruto chose to talk to him first. "Hey, Professor?" Naruto said to get his attention. The potions master stopped his work and turned around to face him. "What is it, Mr. Uzumaki?" he asked in his usual drawl. "It's an emergency," Naruto said, not wanting to mention Voldemort's name since other students were around. That got Snape's attention. Fear and surprise was clear on his face. What kind of emergency? He managed to keep his tone even. Still, his voice was carried to nearby students, and they fell silent, watched the incoming drama, even if they didn't hear the start of the conversation. "No time to explain, come with me," Naruto said and dashed the way he came from. Snape's hurried footsteps followed him to the classroom. The unconscious Quirrell, a broken wand and a small pile of ash in the middle of the otherwise empty room made him raise his brow. "What happened to Professor Quirrell, Mr. Uzumaki?" Snape asked. He wasn't very concerned about the well-being of the defense professor since he suspected the stuttering simpleton was working for Lord Voldemort. But still, the situation didn't leave him any choice but to inquire. "Me and Four Eyes were passing through when we heard muffled screams and some threats being muttered." Naruto looked at Snape. It was Voldemort. Snape flinched. "The Dark Lord was here?" Naruto nodded. "He was torturing Turban Guy, I think. Four Eyes and I rushed in and he attacked us. His spells never hit for some reason." Naruto didn't mention that he was fast enough that he could have dodged those spells in his sleep. "Turban Guy," Naruto pointed at the fallen professor with his foot. "Attacked us for some reason, mind control or not I dunno, so I kicked him in the nuts and cast a full body bind curse on HM." With those words, Snape's doubts were confirmed. Quirrell was working for the Dark Lord. Then Voldemort got really angry and lunged at Four Eyes. But something weird happened when he touched Four Eyes. "What happened when the Dark Lord touched Mr. Potter?" Snape asked him. He had a clue but wanted to confirm it beyond a shadow of a doubt. "He started burning away and kept burning until he was at," he pointed the small pile of ash. "It looked like Four Eyes had some protective spell on him, and it activated the moment that wanker touched him." Naruto looked at Snape when he said that. The potions master neither confirmed nor denied his guess. "And where's Mr. Potter now?" Snape asked the important question instead of unanswering his implied one. "In the hospital wing," Naruto told him. He fainted after Voldemort died, so I took him there. Then I came to find a teacher." Snape thanked his lucky stars that the boy had the common sense to tend to Potter first. He pointed his wand at Quirrell and cast a counter spell. Quirrell didn't wake despite that. Probably took one too many Cruciatus, Snape thought. Naruto noticed that he didn't need any incantation or wand movement for the spell. He filed that information away for later. "Stay here," Snape ordered him. "I'll go get Professor Dumbledore," he said as he cast a full body bind curse on Quirrell. "And a stunner for good measure. I'll be back as soon as I can." When he was alone in the classroom, Naruto crouched near the unconscious professor. He was about 90% sure Turban was working for Voldemort. The remaining 10% was reserved for some really powerful mind-controlling spell he didn't know about yet. He knew there were genjutsu to make someone essentially a human puppet. And magic was really versatile. Even he knew that. Besides that, Four Eyes had a really powerful spell on him. He had a mass murderer after him, so it made sense. Question was who cast it? Headmaster? Some other professor? Some ministry official? Was it common for wizards to have that sort of protective enchantments? Is that why wizards duel from afar? Naruto decided to be safe and not to make contact with anyone, even accidentally, just in case. Magic was awesome. And dangerous. Greasy Guy and the headmaster stormed in the room after a few minutes, both huffing and out of breath. "Headmaster," Naruto nodded his head in form of greeting. The old professor took in his surroundings. "Mr. Uzumaki," the headmaster said, smiling at him. "Professor Snape told me what happened. You and Mr. Potter have done a great service to wizards all over Britain." "It's not a big deal, sir. It was Four Eyes that did most of the work and finished off Voldemort. I just gave support a little. Technically the truth. He just had sharp ears and was faster than spells, that's all. At least, that's what he thought of the situation himself." Dumbledore chuckled. "Supporting a friend in face of such danger is still very admirable," he said. Naruto didn't say anything else. He only nodded. Such danger was nothing to him. He had been in a lot of life or death situation already. He knew better than to say that aloud though. "Severus, Veritaserum please," the headmaster said. The greasy guy placed a small vial with a clear liquid in it on Dumbledore's palm. "What's that, sir?" Naruto asked. "A very powerful truth serum," Snape answered. 3 drops and it can make anyone sing like a canary." Naruto nodded in understanding. A bit surprised that wizards also had truth serum. Back home, the intelligence department had truth serum at their disposal. It got the job done most of the time, but it wasn't foolproof. There were ways to beat it, one of them being genjutsu walls in one's mind like the ones his sensei placed on him. He wondered if this Veritaserum would work on him. Nah, he had utmost confidence in his sensei's abilities. That man was a genius in every sense of the word. "Are we confirming if he was working for Voldemort?" Naruto asked. Dumbledore nodded yes. "I have already called the Auror office, but I think we should get some answers before they arrive and save them some trouble," he said as he forced 3 drops down the unconscious man's throat. The headmaster pointed his wand at Quirrell and he opened his eyes, still unable to move though. "What's an embarrassing thing you don't want anyone to find out about you?" Dumbledore asked in a way of testing the Veritaserum. "I like to wear women's clothes when no one is around," Quirrell said in a monotone. "I think it works," Naruto deadpanned. Dumbledore chuckled. "Yes, I doubt Professor Quirrell would admit to such a thing without Veritaserum." "Or under a Cruciatus," Snape added. "Or under a Cruciatus," Dumbledore agreed with a sigh. "Were you working for Lord Voldemort?" "Yes." "Why?" "For power," Quirrell answered. "So no one would ever laugh at me again." "Insecurities, huh?" Naruto asked to no one in particular. It did not escape his notice that Headmaster directly asked him if he was working for Voldemort, and not why did you attack Mr. Uzumaki. So Dumbledore and possibly others already suspected him of working for Voldemort. Good to know. Still Snape answered yes, young Quirinus Quirrell was quite the gifted student with special talent for theory of defensive magic. But he was feeble of body. So he got bullied and people made fun of him. Naruto tried to fill in the blanks. "Afraid so," Dumbledore answered. "How did you come in contact with Lord Voldemort?" "On my year-long sabbatical, I went to find the Dark Lord because I was curious about what happened to him. And I wanted to be the wizard who tracked him down when no one else could. Not the Death Eaters and not Aurors, but me. My effort bore fruit, for I came across the Dark Lord in a forest in Albania." "What did you do when you came face to face with Lord Voldemort?" Dumbledore asked. The Dark Lord was weakened. A shadow of his former self, closer to death than to life. Quirrell spoke. So I thought maybe I could kill him and become the wizard that defeated the strongest dark wizard of all time. How are you alive? Snape asked, a little surprised that someone could attack the Dark Lord and walk away with their life. I was useful to the Dark Lord, Quirrell said. When I stupidly attempted to kill him, Lord Voldemort quickly humbled me and showed me true power. He promised me that power if I would serve him. Serve him how? Dumbledore asked. By helping him get his body back, of course. And by killing the one responsible for his downfall. 4 eyes. Naruto also crouched in front of Quirrell. How were you going to get his body back? Unicorn blood? That was just a temporary measure until I could find a way to get the Philosopher's Stone. And where's this Philosopher's Stone? Naruto asked before either Snape or Dumbledore could stop him. 3rd floor corridor, all the teachers put up their own defenses for it. Just then Professor McGonagall barged in the classroom. Albus, the Aurors are here. The headmaster stood up. I think we should leave this matter in the capable hands of Mud and Bones, he said. Mr. Uzumaki, why don't you go and get some rest? You have been through a terrible ordeal. Naruto read the words as, leave the questions from Aurors to me. He didn't mind one bit. All right, he said and left the room. Chapter 4 Time Flies. Harry opened his eyes and found himself in the hospital bed. The first thing he noticed was that distinct hospital scent, and the second thing was the piles and piles of sweets and treats that surrounded his bed. It was pretty hard to miss since he was surrounded by the stuff. His bed was like an island in the sea of gifts. Also, there were a lot of letters and get-well-soon cards on the table. Harry pushed himself in sitting position and put on his glasses. Out of curiosity, he picked a letter from the pile. It was from someone named Mary McKinnon. Harry didn't know anyone by that name, so he was a bit confused, but the letter was definitely addressed to him. He opened the envelope and began to read. The lady had written the letter to thank him for defeating the Dark Lord for the 2nd time. And she also congratulated him for being honored with Order of Merlin First Class. Harry's eyes widened at that part. He had to read it again to make sure that his admittedly faulty eyes didn't make a mistake. Actually, he didn't know what Order of Merlin was, but by the context it wasn't hard to guess. Receiving an award would have made anyone jump with joy, but Harry merely grumbled. He got enough looks as it was. This was going to make him more famous. He didn't want that. Reading further, the lady told him that her parents and grandparents were murdered by Death Eaters in the war. That made Harry sympathize with her. After all, his parents also died in the same war. Other letters followed similar pattern, people he never heard about thanking him and congratulating him. Reading it actually felt nice. Harry smiled. Good morning, Harry. He looked up from the current letter he was reading to see Headmaster Dumbledore and Madame Pomfrey walking towards his bed. Good morning, Professor. I thought you'd go for the sweets first. That's what I would have done. Dumbledore smiled at him, his eyes so full of happiness that even the half-moon glasses couldn't hide it. I haven't brushed my teeth yet, so. Good boy, Madame Pomfrey said almost absent-mindedly as she began fussing over him. She checked his temperature, took his pulse and a dozen other things. Harry lost count of how many spells she muttered. He would have been annoyed by how long she was taking, but after one particular spell his morning breath was gone, so it evened out. She thrust a glass of nasty-looking medicine in his hand. Harry hesitantly brought it closer to his mouth. The smell almost made throw up, but somehow he managed to force it down his throat. As nasty as it tasted, Harry felt strength return to his body almost immediately. How long was I sleeping? He asked. He felt well rested, but looking outside it could have been either morning or evening. He hoped it was morning. It took you 2 full days to recover, Pomfrey told him. Whatever it was that you did to you-know-who sapped you of all your strength, every last drop of it. Plus the backlash gave you a very high fever. If you hadn't gotten immediate medical attention, she let her sentence hang. She didn't need to finish it, nor did she want to. Hearing that made Harry's heart plummet. It's fortunate that Mr. Uzumaki didn't panic and brought you here immediately. Harry didn't need Dumbledore to tell him that, given that Naruto was the only other person with him, no one else could have brought him to the hospital wing. Other than the unconscious Quirrell, of course. Speaking of Professor Dumbledore, what happened to Professor Quirrell? Dumbledore sighed. And Madame Pomfrey, having already been informed of what transpired and not wanting to be a part of the conversation, made herself scarce with a quick, I'll be at my desk if you need me. He's been arrested, Dumbledore told him. He was working for Voldemort, Harry. This wasn't that big of a shock to him. But when we first found him, Voldemort was hurting him. I thought that, You know, Harry finished lamely. I would have liked if you hadn't seen that, Dumbledore admitted. When you walked in that classroom, Quirrell was being punished. Punished? For what? There are many reasons Lord Voldemort would punish his subordinates for. Sloppiness, mistakes, or simply for his amusement. It's anyone's guess, really. In Professor Quirrell's case, he wasn't working quick enough. That's what Quirrell told me, but I think the real reason was that Voldemort was frustrated and his patience was probably at its limit. That brought a memory in Harry's mind. The reason for frustration didn't happen to be toads in Forbidden Forest, did it? He asked. Dumbledore chuckled. That's as good a reason as any. Harry smiled. Ah, I almost forgot. Madam Bones from Department of Magical Law Enforcement told me to congratulate you on her behalf. Harry nodded. He wished he hadn't received that award, but he thought that the Ministry wouldn't like it very much if he returned it. What about Naruto, Professor? Dumbledore smiled widely at him. You mean, are his efforts recognized as well? Harry nodded. Yes, Harry, Mr. Uzumaki had been awarded Order of Merlin First Class as well, same as you. Though the Daily Prophet didn't mention him much. Harry's mood dampened a little. Well, I'll let you rest. Poppy told me to keep the visit short, and I think I should leave before she kicks me out. Harry grinned at the idea of most powerful wizard getting kicked out by the nurse. He wanted to ask the headmaster about a lot of other things, but to him, it felt like Dumbledore was trying to avoid answering any more question. Harry didn't know how to feel about that, but he decided to let it go. It wasn't that important at that time. When he made his way back to Gryffindor Common Room, he was greeted with deafening cheers. The whole house was gathered there. There he is! The Weasley twins shouted above the cheers. Our tiny hero! They both looped their hands through his and led him to the middle of the common room. Harry blushed at the antics of the twins. The rest of the Gryffindors weren't any better either. There was a large pile of sweets and drinks on the table. He made out some of the words like, "We're proud of you, Harry," and "Good job, Harry," among many other things. Normally he'd want to get away as quickly as he could from such a crowd, but this time it was different. They sang out his name and praised him, but it didn't make him as uncomfortable as he thought it would. Maybe it was because they didn't ask him to show his scar or ask him for details and were only interested in celebrating? It seemed like they were using the death of Voldemort as an excuse to throw a party. He was totally fine with it. There was no harm in that. After all, he was happy too, so Harry decided to stay and enjoy the food. Oliver thrust a bottle in his hand. Have a butterbeer, Harry. Harry didn't have the heart to say no and drank. It tasted good and a pleasant warmth immediately spread through his body. Harry immediately liked butterbeer. To Gryffindor! The twins yelled while raised their drinks above their heads. To Gryffindor! The whole house yelled, Harry among them. He felt like he couldn't be happier. Here, try this one. Katie offered him a candy which he recognized as acid pops. Put it in your mouth and take a big gulp of butterbeer. Harry did so and almost regretted. The combination was 10 times worse than a normal acid pop. So much so that Harry's eyes watered. Whatever he was trying to say came out as unintelligible slurs. Everyone in the vicinity laughed at him. Harry began laughing too. Away from the lively Gryffindor common room, Naruto was in the forest alone. Officially to feed the Thestrals, but really to get some training. He got restless when he didn't get to exercise, and the forest was the perfect place to train. No one bothered him there, besides the creatures. Come on, almost there, Naruto said as he tried his hardest to keep Rasengan alive in his palm. When he increased the power, the Rasengan exploded in his hand and threw him off his feet. Damn, who'd have thought the third step would be so hard? He muttered as he tried to catch his breath. He had been at it for a while now. Sensei made it look so easy. He frowned at the burn marks on his palm. His right palm was charred from the many Rasengan exploding. Good thing I have 2 hands. Naruto smiled as chakra danced in his left palm and he continued his training. Harry and Naruto sat beside each other in library completing their potions homework. Well, Naruto had already completed his essay and was now reading some obscure book. Harry passed Naruto a note. He didn't want to risk getting kicked out by talking out loud. What are you reading? Naruto saw the note, quickly wrote his answer on the same piece of paper and handed it back. Mother of Magic by Nissa Solis. What's it about? Magic. Harry glared at Naruto for that. The blonde chuckled and wrote another note. About the origin of magic. Harry nodded. He frowned at his homework. It was still a few lines too short. He wanted to read about origin of magic too. That sounded way cooler than writing about properties of porcupine quills. November. Today was the first game of Quidditch season and Naruto sat on the Slytherin side with his housemates. His eyes were tracking small snitch across the pitch. He was pretty sure he could have caught it long ago without much effort on his part. But he kept that thought to himself. He didn't want to sound like a jerk. Everyone from his house was wearing green robes, scarves or some other Slytherin-related stuff to show their support. Rest of the school, however, was supporting Gryffindor. It was like a green island in the middle of Crimson Sea. The sport itself wasn't that interesting, the points systems made very little sense, and for a team sport, the seeker was given too much importance. But everyone seemed like they were enjoying it, so who was he to ruin their fun? In the beginning Naruto wanted Slytherin to win since they seemed like underdogs where majority of support was for Gryffindor, but as soon as the match began, he changed his mind. From falling to cheating, the Greens were doing everything in their power to earn the boos of the crowd. The Slytherin team was full of pricks. Worse, they weren't subtle at all. They should change their mascot to a hedgehog. They are not very cunning. Naruto was glad when Harry finally caught the snitch. This wasn't that entertaining. I should have trained instead of coming here. Naruto vanished with a body flicker. There was an excitement among the first-year students as they sat for their defense against dark arts lecture. The reason being, their headmaster, the most famous and powerful wizard in the world, was going to teach the subject. "Welcome, welcome," Dumbledore said, matching the excitement of his students. "Due to unforeseen circumstances, I shall be teaching you how to defend against dark arts until a suitable candidate can be found. Whoever it is, I hope they are better than Quirrell," Harry whispered to Naruto. "That's not a very high bar, you know," Naruto whispered back. "Okay then, let's dive straight into it, shall we?" Dumbledore said, and the chatter of students immediately died down. "How many of you know about creatures categorized as living dead?" Hermione's hand was straight up in the air as soon as the question was asked. "Yes, Miss Granger. Living dead are a group of dark creatures which includes vampires and zombies. Although they are categorized as living dead, they are not actually living dead. They merely fit the conventional definition of death. Meaning they don't have fully functioning life organs in their bodies, and they survive on certain conditions." Hermione said all of that in one breath. "Such as?" "Like vampires require the consumption of blood and zombies require brain matter." The classroom was silent. Some envied her, and some were jealous. Some rolled their eyes and muttered know-it-all under their breath. Hermione didn't care about any of that since Dumbledore was smiling proudly at her. "Very good, Miss Granger, 10 points. Hermione smiled wide. "Now then," Dumbledore clapped his hands, "since all of us know what the living dead are, we shall learn about what to do in case one of us finds themselves facing a vampire or a zombie. Does anyone have any clue about what to do?" "Fight them?" Ron Weasley said. Which made the whole class laugh, even the professor. Which turned the boys' ears red. "Yes, Mr. Weasley, you are technically correct, but what shall one do to fight off the living dead?" Dumbledore asked further. Ron nervously got to his feet. "Well, Bill once told me he killed a zombie by blasting its head off." Dumbledore smiled. "Yes, that is a zombie's weakness. Though they are native to United States of America, so you won't find them strolling in Britain, but still it never hurts to learn useful spells." The excitement of students was turned by a notch at those words. "Pack your quills and parchment," the headmaster said, and made the students stand in neat rows. With a wave of his wand, the desks were turned into practice dummies that resembled zombies. "Now, there are many spells, but I'll show you one that's my favorite. Watch closely." Dumbledore cleared his throat and pointed his wand at the first dummy, Confringo. A fiery orange light erupted from the headmaster's wand and blasted the head of the dummy clean off. That was a blasting curse. "As I've shown you, the incantation is Confringo. Put more emphasis on Fring and move your wand in likeness of letter Z," Dumbledore said. "Now practice the curse on the training dummies." The class leapt eagerly at the chance of blasting the zombies. December. Christmas was just around the corner. It snowed last night and today was Sunday, the perfect time to go outside and enjoy the beautiful day. Some kids were making snowmen and enchanted them to sing Christmas carols and wave at passerby, though one snowman had swallowed a second-year Slytherin boy, possibly the work of the Weasley twins, not that anyone could prove it. Many students were locked in a fierce battle of snowballs. And some were skating on the lake, which had frozen over. Fred and George were renting out skates. Harry had dragged Naruto to the lake. "Are you going home for Christmas?" Naruto asked. He was making small talk on the way. Harry shook his head. "If I had it my way, I wouldn't go back for summer either." Naruto frowned at that. "Your relatives must be really awful." Harry snorted. "You have no idea." Why don't you leave then? And go where? Not that I don't want to, but I'm a minor. I don't have any other relatives as far as I know. And I doubt anyone will let a kid rent an apartment. As soon as the authorities find out I'm living alone, they'll hand me over to my aunt and uncle. I think I have a solution for that then. Naruto said, next summer I'm going to rent a place in Appleby in North Lincolnshire, Old Man Kettleburn's house, since he's going on a long vacation with his wife at the end of the school year. He told me he's retiring. Harry looked at him, his mouth hanging open. You could stay with me for a few days until you find your own place, Naruto continued on. Old Man Kettleburn told me a little about Appleby. They have a Quidditch team. If you sign up for their training program or something, he shrugged his shoulders, I think they'll let you live there. Harry was stunned. You are the best friend anyone could ever hope for. Naruto laughed, thank you. They had reached Fred and George's stand now. Well, if it isn't the boy who lived, the twins greeted Harry in unison, and a thirsty snake. How much for a pair of skates? For you, Harry, Fred said, free of charge. For you, however, George said to Naruto, 5 galleons. For 1 hour. Hey, that's not fair. New as he was to wizard money, even Harry knew they were totally ripping off Naruto. Fred leaned close to the blonde. Oh, it's totally fair, Harry. He knows what he did. Harry was about to protest further, but Naruto cut him off. It's okay, Four Eyes, he said with a smile on his face, and handed over the 5 golden galleons. Harry felt bad for his friend. He too gave the twins 5 galleons, despite their protest. Why do you let people do things like that to you? Harry demanded when they were far away from the twins. You never say anything back to anyone. You shouldn't take things lying down. Naruto paused in middle of tying his skates and laughed loudly. Four Eyes, I'm not a pacifist, you know. I'm perfectly fine with fighting back, he said. But these are just school children. All they do is throw some cheap insults at you or be petty. It's not something worth fighting over. They usually go away if you ignore them. Harry frowned, I suppose? But I still don't like it. Arg, shut up now, don't ruin the mood any further. I'm really looking forward to skating. Harry dropped the subject. Have you ever skated before? No, never. Yeah, me either, they both stepped on the ice. I hope I don't fall over too much, Harry said, doing his all to stay on his feet. Naruto laughed at him. You look like a newborn giraffe. He, on the other hand, wasn't having any trouble at all. You know, 'cause ninja. Naruto was gracefully sliding this way and that, doing tricks and flips and whatnot. You liar! Harry yelled at him. That's just straight up unfair. Naruto laughed even more. I didn't lie, Four Eyes. He yelled at Harry from halfway across the lake. It's just way too easy. And he did a backflip. Harry glared at him, stupid blonde. I hope he falls on his arse. He grumbled under his breath and then promptly fell on his arse. Karma. Harry heard a roar of laughter. Never skated in your life, have you, Potter? Harry knew that annoying voice, Draco fucking Malfoy. And his gang. Cheap insults. Harry put on a big smile on his face then. Nope. He grinned at the Slytherins. Malfoy looked like someone had stolen his Christmas gift since Harry didn't react in the way he hoped. His mouth opened and closed like a goldfish, not knowing what to say next. Harry shakily went his way then, and Slytherins didn't pursue him since Harry was being spoilsport. That bastard Naruto was right, Harry thought with a grin. Malfoy's face was priceless to see. Having trouble, Harry? Harry turned towards the voice. It was Lily along with Sophie and Hermione. Lily offered him her hand. Here, I'll help you, she said, not letting go of his hand in case he lost his balance again. Thanks. Harry was grateful for that, even if it was a little embarrassing. At least it was better than falling. That was painful. Hey, you're a quick learner, Harry, he heard Sophie say, who was supporting Hermione like Lily was supporting him. Harry skated like that for a while, using Lily as a support whenever his balance wavered and slowly moving forward on his own whenever he could. He was having fun, so naturally Naruto came around to remind him just how better he was. The blonde dashed among the students, gracefully avoiding hitting anyone. When he turned towards the Gryffindor foursome, Harry thought he'd stop, but instead the blonde front flipped over their heads. Panicked, they ducked. Naruto landed gracefully behind them, making the small crowd he'd managed to gather applaud for him. Harry grit his teeth in annoyance. Lily? Yeah? She said, happy that she wasn't run over by that crazy Slytherin. Do you have, like, a gun or something? Not right now, no. December 23. So you're not staying for Christmas? Harry asked Naruto, who was dressed and ready to leave. Yeah, I'm going to look for a job. Really? What kind of job? Something legal. Would it kill you if you gave a straightforward answer? Naruto chuckled. Okay. I was offered a role in an advertisement, but I declined it since the shoot was scheduled in September. I'm going to check if they have some other offers for me. Harry whistled. Wow, how'd you manage that? Naruto smirked. It's because I'm so handsome, he said. Maybe I should ask them about you too. I'm sure they'd find a role for you as an extra in the background or something. Harry's eyebrow twitched. Yeah, get going, Spiky, or you'll miss the train. Naruto's smirk vanished when he heard his nickname. January. Did you get the job? Harry whispered to Naruto. They were both in Transfiguration, their first class after holidays. McGonagall was revising what they'd learned so far, and since both Harry and Naruto completed their tasks already, they had nothing more to do in the class except for sitting there. They didn't have any more acting roles, Naruto replied. But they did have a job for me. Let me guess, as a background extra? Harry smirked at him. Please, who do you think I am? I was a model for Ahe Kids Clothing Company. That's nice. Yeah, the pay was good and I only had to work for a few hours. Hopefully I'd be able to buy my own house soon, Naruto said. Say Four Eyes? HM? Where did your parents live, if you don't mind me asking? Harry shook his head. I asked Hagrid about them. They lived in Godric's Hollow, he told me. Said the house was destroyed in the attack. I'm sorry. Harry smiled sadly. Don't be. I don't remember anything about them or the house. Thinking about his parents reminded him of the awesome gift he received for Christmas. That put a happy smile on his face. Mr. Potter. Harry's spine immediately straightened and his head snapped towards Professor McGonagall. Are you done chatting? The old professor asked him pointedly. Why, yes, ma'am. Just because you completed the task doesn't mean you are free to talk in class. 5 points from both Gryffindor and Slytherin. June. Naruto and Harry were hanging by the lake. Over the months this had become their usual spot. It was calm there was plenty of sunlight, and rarely anyone bothered them. Harry had his pants rolled and legs kicking back and forth in the water. Naruto meanwhile was making little Naruto clones out of water. He had made progress over the months. Now his clones looked humanoid, and he even succeeded in making them do small gestures like waving their small watery hands. And if you squint, you could even see the similarities between the water clones and the real one. That's amazing, mate, Harry said, watching a clone wave at him. Harry had gotten used to the sight of Naruto always trying to do something with his magic. Thanks, Naruto said and pulled away his magic, letting the water mix with the lake. Harry pulled 2 ice mice from his pocket and offered one to Naruto. Wizards love to make their sweets in the shape of random animals and pests: chocolate frogs, cockroach clusters, dragon claws, which was way too hard and tasted way too sweet, and the like. This particular treat, ice mice, made the consumer's teeth squeaky like they had little rodents running around in their mouth. On the positive side, taking a bite of them spread coolness throughout your body, exactly opposite effect of butterbeer, perfect for a hot afternoon like this one. I wish they'd just hurry up with the results, Harry grumbled. I'm dying of anxiety over here. Naruto snorted. Please, I should be the one anxious. I hope I wrote enough in theory exam. Yeah, mate, you suck at written exams. He patted Naruto's shoulder in sympathy. Harry knew Naruto had trouble remembering definitions and long answers. He had pointed out at one point that Naruto may be dyslexic and/or ADHD, but Naruto had waved it off. That's just fancy way of saying I suck. I just need to work harder, he had said. A piece of work, the blonde was. His previous teachers must not have been very good for Naruto to think like that. I think they should do away with written exams. Who cares if I know the theory behind levitation charm? Isn't it enough that I can perform the spell? Naruto complained. Ninjas didn't care about theory of a technique. As long as you could perform it, that was all that mattered. Harry laughed at him. Yeah, only if the school board would listen to demands of a first year. Shut up. You know I'm right. Yeah, Harry waved off Naruto's words. Naruto got up from his spot. There's still some time until before we get the results. You want to come with me in the forest? Harry shrugged and got up as well. Why not? I don't have anything better to do. The 2 first years walked to Hagrid's hut together. Hagrid's dog, Fong, greeted them with loud barks and lots of tail wagging. Harry patted the dog on its head. Harry, Uzumaki, come in. The big man invited them in his small hut. It's good to see you, Harry. He was wearing a big yellow apron that splattered with blood. You too, Hagrid. You have the meat ready? Naruto asked. Yeah, just a minute, Hagrid said as he walked over to table and began chopping the pig in manageable size pieces. Why don't you boys sit down for a little bit? I'll get the tea in a minute. Fong. Go away, you stupid dog. This is not your food. Ah, blast it, go on then, take that head. Harry and Naruto sat down on the chairs while Fong made off with his share. And that's the last of it, Hagrid announced loudly as he filled 2 buckets with meat. How were your exams, Harry? You haven't visited me in a while. Hagrid made small talk as he put the kettle on stove. Yeah, sorry about that. I meant to come here last weekend but would called in emergency practice. Said he didn't want us forgetting tactics. What tactics? Naruto muttered under his breath. Harry glared at him. Your tactics are something a somewhat bright animal could pull off. The blonde had said once. Harry hadn't forgotten that. Actually, it was kinda true, but still. The kettle blew a whistle and Hagrid poured them tea with lots of rock cakes. Harry, having eaten them once, was reluctant to take the treats but took one anyway. He didn't want to be rude. Naruto, on the other hand, had no such reservations. I have allergies, he simply said. Prick. Could have at least shared them. Inwardly, Harry almost smacked his own forehead for not thinking of such a simple excuse. Hagrid was a really good guy, but his cooking should only be served in prison to people who committed horrible crimes. In this case, the rock cakes were supposed to be fruit cakes with a hard shell. And Hagrid had taken that to heart. Hard shell, you say? Say no more. His rock cakes were literally like rocks. You could bludgeon someone with them. After drinking their tea and eating a rock cake, the 2 friends began their trek in the forest, but not before Hagrid put another couple of cakes in Harry's hands. You okay there, Four Eyes? Naruto asked Harry, who was panting while he carried the large bucket full of meat. Yeah, I am fine, Harry gasped for air, just need to take a breather, that's all. And Harry slumped against a tree. I can carry 2 buckets, you know, Naruto said. No, it's fine, what are friends for? You are not even sweating. Harry accused him like he had committed a crime. That's so unfair. Naruto laughed. Don't try to match me, Four Eyes, you'll drop dead. You have some water? Harry asked. Naruto shook his head. No, but there is a stream nearby. Ah, okay. Come on, Naruto said after about 5 minutes, we are close now. Use the levitation spell so you won't pass out or something. Yeah, alright, Harry said as he took out his wand, Wingardium Leviosa. The bucket floated 5 feet in the air. Should have done this from the get-go, Harry muttered. Just don't let any wild creatures snatch it. Harry followed Naruto deeper in the forest. You haven't told me where we are going. I haven't? We are going to feed the Thestrals. Kettleburn gives small tasks like that to me. They arrived at the spot quicker than Harry expected, even when they stopped by the stream for a bit. There is nothing here, Harry said as looked past dense trees that blocked out almost all of sunlight. You don't see it? Naruto asked. Look over there. Harry's eyes followed Naruto's index finger and saw a horse-like thing with reptilian features, leathery skin that clung to its bones and milky white eyes staring at him from behind the bush. It creeped him out. It's just a baby, so it's probably shy of strangers, Naruto said and picked a small piece meat from his bucket. Come on, little guy, no need to be afraid, he cooed. The little foal warily looked at the 2 boys and approached slowly. Don't make any sudden moves, okay? It doesn't trust us but is probably very hungry. Harry nodded dumbly, transfixed by the sight of the creatures. He didn't see it when the small foal was behind the bush, but now Harry noticed the 2 bat-like wings on its back. Creepy. There's another. He whispered to Naruto. I know, I see it. I know that one. Come on, don't just stand there, Naruto said. Harry snapped out of his stupor and picked up meat to feed the Thestral. He was hesitant at first, he didn't know if the creature would bite his hand or what, but his worries seemed completely unfounded. The grown-up Thestral gently took the piece of meat from his hand and even nuzzled his palm afterwards. They're friendly, Harry said with a large grin. They are not what they look like at all. Naruto laughed. Yeah, appearances can be deceiving and all that. Always look underneath the underneath. Harry had no clue what Naruto was talking about but was too busy feeding the awesome Thestrals to care. One by one, more Thestrals came out, and soon the 2 boys were surrounded by a whole herd. What are we doing here, Granger? Lily was irritated. She was planning on bribing some upperclassmen for more of that weird candy, but Hermione had dragged her to Flitwick's office. Her candy time was ruined. I'm going to ask Professor Flitwick about our exam results. Why? We already know you'll get almost perfect score. Lily received what the girls in her dorm called the Granger glare. She sighed. Fine. I just want to check something, Hermione said, and almost dragged Lily inside when the doors opened. Ms. Granger and Ms. Moon, come in. The charms professor greeted them excitedly. Professor Flitwick, we had a question about the exam, Hermione said and tried to ignore Lily's stare. We? The stare seemed to ask. Yes, both of you did brilliantly. You have the best score of all first years, Ms. Granger, congratulations. Hermione's face lit up in a bright smile. Thank you, sir. I was worried I messed up in practical exams, with that dancing pineapple. No, your spell was a bit shaky at first, but still you received second highest score in practical, Flitwick said with his usual cheery tone. Hermione's smile dimmed. Oh, Lily thought. Who's first, sir? She asked. That would Mr. Uzumaki, of course, Flitwick grinned. What a splendid young wizard he is. In my entire career I have never seen a first-year student cast nonverbal spells. It's a shame his theory grades are average, or he'd be top of his class. Hermione's smile lessened with every word until her mouth formed a thin line. That's all we wanted to know, thank you, sir, Lily said and dragged Hermione outside before she started badgering the charms professor with questions. Let's me guess, you're going to the library, Lily said when she saw the look on Hermione's face. No. In fact, I'm going to ask Uzumaki how he performed the charms nonverbally. Ah, come on, Lily whined. You're first in our class, can't you just accept that? No, Hermione said stubbornly. At the end of your feast, Dumbledore was rambling on in his speech, and there was tasty food in front of him. The whole hall was abuzz with chatter of students who were excited to go home. But Naruto couldn't focus on any of that. She's totally staring at me, he thought as he tried to focus on his plate. I don't know what she's planning, but I'm out of here as soon as I eat my fill. I don't want to answer whatever question she has. Naruto had shared a class with her. He knew that girl was going to ask like a million questions, if her stare was anything to go by. Sure enough, as soon as he finished everything on his plate, he used a body flicker and went straight to dungeons to get his bag. He was going to be the first one on the train, and he was going to lock his compartment. Hermione's jaw dropped, who had seen him vanish right in front of her eyes. That's certainly not a first-year spell, she exclaimed. Oh, she had so many questions. What if Naruto Harry Potter Naruto Slytherin? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.